Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Хотите жить – бегите. Хотите жить – сдавайтесь в плен. Россия не получит новую территорию Украины. Россия присоединит себя к той катастрофе, которую она принесла на оккупированную территорию нашей страны. Оккупант заполняет могилами захваченную территорию Украины. И все больше могил на территории самой России. Ценой того, что один человек в России хочет продолжать эту войну, кто хочет войны больше, чем жизнь. Ваши жизни, граждане России.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 569 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again. And Kadyrov Earl, he ordered Earl Grey tea, hot, but he got Earl Green tea. Oh dear, I'm telling you.
I'm not feeling so good, Don.
And moving on into the breaking news tonight, y'all already know what's happening. Ramzan Kadyrov is in a coma. And of course,
Oh dear.
it's a big news event because many of y'all know Ramzan Kadyrov. He was like the Yevgeny Prigozhin without all of the cooing going on in the background. This guy was the guy. You know, he was the guy, the mountain man. He had the Chechen Kadyrovites following him into the war, and then of course they got beat pretty badly in Mariupol, and then we didn't really see much of them beyond that. But he is in a coma right now, according to information that we are getting, and according to Max on Twitter, he's in a coma, and this was reported by the main intelligence directorate of Ukraine, and they were able to confirm that this is the case. He is in a coma at the moment. Ukraine is also stating that he is probably on death's doorstep and probably just hours, if not days away from dying. It appears that from the information that everyone's been getting, his situation is very serious, very bad, and it's not improving anytime soon. So it looks like not only is Yevgeny Prigozhin going to disappear into the great beyond, it also appears that his buddy, Ramzan Kadyrov from Chechnya, is also going to be joining him very soon. Many people have been
Who could
wondering...
have seen that coming?
Oh, man, I'm telling you. I don't know who, but I get no respect around here. Oh, man. I ordered some tea. They gave me poison. Oh, man.
But anyways, moving on from that, what is great about this, what is amazing about this, is that this is the second most high-profile Russian, really, behind the war, that is not in the central government that wasn't Yevgeny Prigozhin. He's like the guy right behind Yevgeny Prigozhin as far as like unofficial friends of Russia in Russia go. And now he's also on the way out too. And it's beginning to beg the question from many people, who the hell did this to him, or why is he dying? And there's been a good amount of theories. Some people say that he's been having some problems with opiates, which could possibly be true, but we don't really have a good history to lay out with opiate addiction for Kadyrov, so we can't really say that for certain. It could also just be failing health. We have noticed for a while now that Kadyrov appears to be in very bad health. Of course, we've made fun of that on stream for months now, so we know that he's been in bad health, so it may just be the continuation of terrible health problems finally catching up to him. The other thing, the third option that many people are going with, and we're kind of going with for the most part at this point too, is that Kadyrov was probably poisoned by the Russian government. Regardless of however he's dying, apparently it is a poisoning of some kind, whether on his own or by the Russian government. He's either poisoned himself with opiates or he's been poisoned by the Russian government. But regardless, Ramzan Kadyrov appears to have finally met his end. Dawn. And I gotta tell y'all, this is something wild. You would never think, for all the days that existed, and also how this war has been going for 570 days nearly, it'll be the 570th day tomorrow, that we would have heard at this point in the war that both Yevgeny Prigozhin is dead and Ramzan Kadyrov is dying. I would have never expected to have heard this news if you told me this 100 days ago on day 469. I would have said, get the hell out of here. There's no way that that's going to happen. And yet, almost everyone in Russia that's friends with Putin, that is not Shoigu, is dying, or they've been pushed somewhere into oblivion, or they may as well not even exist anymore. And so this is, of course, massive news. We don't have a lot of news beyond the single statement made by the Ukrainian intelligence directive. And while also, by the way, usually we discredit Ukrainian intelligence reports due to the Zaporizhia incident that occurred a while ago, just letting y'all know. But this one appears to have been corroborated by a large number of people, not just the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, not the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, the Ukrainian intelligence sphere. It's also been corroborated by Russian bloggers as well, which are saying that Ramzan Kadyrov is in poor health. So from what we understand, it is the story. He's in poor health, regardless of what story you're going with. He's in bad shape. And we're going to be waiting to see, is this it for Ramzan Kadyrov, or is he going to somehow pull through? Honestly, I'm expecting him to get the window treatment, so he's probably not going to make it through, but we'll be waiting over the next few days. But y'all heard it here tonight. Ramzan Kadyrov is on the way out. Moving on from that.
I know what's going to happen if he actually dies from whatever's wrong with him. I don't know who's going to take over Chechnya after that. Are we in store for a worse person or a potentially more tame person?
That's a good question. I don't really know who the guy's name is at the moment, but there is a right-hand man to Ramzan Kadyrov, and we've seen him several times before, but I actually can't think of who that guy's name is off the top of my head. But we will try and figure out who he is later on in the stream.
It's such a sort of insignificant country in the scheme of the war. I really haven't studied Chechnya's line of succession, if they even have one. But yeah, I don't even know who would take his place, to be honest. Maybe that right-hand man, like you said.
Maybe so. There's not really a lot in Chechnya either. Most of it's just empty farmland or just really desolate steppe. Really, the only major city there is Grozny. There's not really a massive or economically prosperous region of Russia. If I had to compare this to anything, and I mean no offense when I say this, by the way, I'm just speaking on economics. This would be like the Russians' equivalent of West Virginia, as far as it goes economically. I mean, West Virginians are great people, of course, but there's not a lot going on in economic activity in West Virginia. And the only reason that Grozny looks good is because they pumped, like Russian cities do, a whole load of money into the central area of Grozny, and beyond that, everyone else in the city, good luck, best of luck, go live in the mold buildings, because we're not helping you out. It's largely what the Chechens have done over the past 20 years or so. Also, Grozny was completely leveled in the 90s during the First and Second Chechen Wars, so you have that going for it too, but still not really a great situation down there in Chechnya, and nevertheless, we still don't know who's going to take charge of this tiny little semi-republic, semi-not republic. Moving on from that news, however, and on into the area of Samara, which is just south of the Volga River from Tolyatti, we got to hear today that a ball bearing plant, has caught on fire. And I'll be showing you all this clip here when it loads, and it finally loaded, thank goodness. Here's the clip. There's the ball bearing plant on fire. Some of y'all are like, wow, could we put a bearing on the situation? And yes, we can. I'm wanting to make sure that we're on top of the ball, and we're also getting a good bearing of what this means for the Russian Federation. The ball bearing plants are incredibly important. A lot of modern machinery uses ball bearings, and factories have to be specially made to produce them. Ball bearings are incredibly difficult to manufacture, and it takes a massive, in-depth process to produce ball bearings of any kind or any sort, even in the modern day. And so the destruction of a ball bearing factory is incredibly important because a lot of the systems that may have required a certain size of ball bearing will no longer be able to get them, or there will be a massive shortage of them. And the fire is just burning so nice. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm not even doing Hank Hill. I can't do that one. But when you see,
I was trying to figure out who that was. I couldn't recognize it. Man, that gray blends in perfect though with that background.
Man, it's got that good Soviet drip to the smoke cloud. Oh look, an old Soviet ball bearing factory fire.
Man, Stalin would be proud of this fire.
Man, dude, I think any arsonist would be proud of this fire. Dude, it got worse. Ooh.
Someone's out there with the little bricks, like making sound effects on the road.
Dude, they're trying to make it sound like a horse-drawn carriage. Click, clack, click, clack. But there's the burning fire again. And now they're passing another garbage truck. And while that garbage truck may be taking out the trash, the Ukrainian partisans or the Russian partisans are taking out the exquisite ball bearings. So it appears the Russians will have a shortage of ball bearings. We don't know exactly what kind, what size ball bearings this factory produced or where these ball bearings ended up. But the fact that a ball bearing factory has caught on fire and is damaged is big news to say the least. The stupidity and the stories from the Volga River didn't end there today, however, in Samara, as we travel north up the river. And by the way, y'all may or may not know this. This is something that's actually not known to many people outside of Russia. While a lot of Russians live west of the Urals, most of them live in Moscow, St. Petersburg, or find themselves living along the length of the Volga River. The Volga River is the equivalent of the Mississippi River here in the United States. It is a major artery for Russian trade and economics, and it also allows for the transportation of goods in bulk incredibly cheap. And so you usually find that most things in Russia either happen in three places: Moscow, St. Petersburg, or on the Volga River. Yekaterinburg is actually the third largest city in the entirety of the Russian Federation. But while being the third largest, it's kind of isolated on its own out here. There's not many major cities around Yekaterinburg, so mostly it's Volga River business. But moving on back to the Volga River and sailing up the river past Ulyanovsk and towards the area of Kazan, something today happened that I don't even have to describe. Y'all just have to witness it. And y'all are going to witness this here in a minute. Now, y'all are going to be blown away by the stupidity of this guy. But I actually do have to explain a little bit. This guy right here on the bench, you can see the little Z on what appears to be some weird-looking hunting clothes. That's his uniform. He actually just came back from Ukraine, and it appears that he's just going to have a little gaffe and a little laugh at everyone here in a second. But here's the clip. Sounds like this one was robbing an ATM. Oh, is that a hand grenade? Oh, is he pulling the pin? Look at that guy, silly goose. Oh, man, he's just scaring everyone, isn't he? Oh, man, isn't that funny? Oh!
Oh my god. Wait a minute, it really exploded?
Yeah, he really pulled the pin and threw it
Oh my
down
god, I
the
thought he was
street.
joking or something.
No, he literally just set off a grenade in this neighborhood.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Where
Oh,
did it blow
man.
up?
It blew up in the middle of the street. Like, hang on, let me get
Damn.
let me go back.
That was unexpected.
Look at this.
Oh my god. Oh god. What the hell?
Dude, look at him. He
That
acted
is
like he just
insane.
scored a goal at a football game. Oh my god. This is so
Damn.
stupid. And there was kids around. He threw the thing over kids. Oh my
Jeez,
god.
man. How did nobody not get injured from that?
I don't even know. It is literally by the grace of God above that nobody got injured in this whole ordeal, from what we understand. But this is insane.
Dude's acting like he did something.
Yeah. Man, what the hell? There's a nuclear alarm going off after some. Dude, SCP, we have a containment breach.
Man, this is like pure chaos in this video. That like alarm on the door and everything going off.
Yeah, and here comes the kids wandering back down the street where their grenade went off. Like, what the hell happened? Oh my god, dude, this guy is literally insane. Dude, this sounds like the kitchen of a McDonald's right now with all these alarms going off. Goodness gracious. But,
Dang, dude's just sitting there like a goblin after he just did that. He nearly took out like a whole family.
Oh my lord. Oh man, these are the Russian professionals. that the Russian government claims are fighting in Ukraine and liberating the Ukrainians from their Nazi oppressors. And they're the same kind of people who go home with a F1 grenade and fling it down the street for fun. Now, I gotta go back. Considering that no one got injured, this is just hilarious as hell, honestly. Let's go back and watch this insane guy throw the grenade again, because it's just hilarious. Also, some people said maybe it's a stun grenade. No, from what I understand, this appears to be... I think it's an RDG-5 if I can get a good look at it. Let me try and see if we can, because we can get a look at the top of it. Oh yeah, wait, hang on. Now we know what that is. It is an F1 grenade. And we can tell because we can hardly see it. The pixel quality is pretty bad, of course. It's a little like Ring security camera thing. But you can see right here the top of the grenade where the spoon and the fuse is held. And if you look in the video, you can lightly see a little bit of the tip of that handle that is on an F1 grenade. Right there, you see how it's very thin, and you can see the spoon attached right over here to the side. That is an F1 grenade. So this is not a flash grenade. This is a full-on high explosive fragmentation grenade that you would find being used in the trenches of Ukraine right now. But let's watch him throw it.
Some folks are very determined that it's a stun grenade, but if it has that little segment, can you like pause it on the exact frame where we can see it?
We can't really see a lot of it, but I think that's the best we'll get right there is the top handle.
Because I believe a stun grenade doesn't have a stem on the top of it. It's just like a rounded container with a small like indent at the top. It's nothing like this, like at all.
Let me go see what a Russian flash grenade looks like. So let me take this off screen just in case if there was something like it was Urban Dictionary. I was about to click on that. Thank goodness I did not. So looking at different kinds of Russian flash grenades, and it appears that a lot of them actually have the same F1 spoon and fuse to them. So it's possible it could be one, but at the same time, I don't really know. I'm kind of doubting it. So here's actually...
If it was a frag grenade, it seems like it would have injured at least one person because he couldn't have thrown that very far.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But here's the thing. According to this chart, there's only one flash grenade. There's a higher chance it was just a normal fragmentation grenade because they apparently all use the exact same spoon and handle at the top. Then the flashbang. So let's see. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute, hang on. We can see it right there for just like a frame. It passed her head. Okay, so we can see it for just a split second. It looks like it's black. So it looks like it may actually be a flash grenade, not a fragmentation grenade. So, yeah, it does appear. We're going to have to reverse this for a second because for a while, we thought it was a high explosive fragmentation grenade. And before the stream, it looked like one. But going over it now, it does look like it's possibly a Zarya 5 flashbang. Still does not negate the fact that he just threw a grenade down the street and pulled the pin. So... Chaos ensues. Oh my god. It doesn't matter whether
that's a convincing flashbang grenade because it sounds almost like a real one.
Yeah, it does. It sounds a lot like a normal one. I mean, hell, we've heard the audio of grenades blowing up in this war for a long, long time. And that sounds a lot like a normal RDG-5 or an F1. But it apparently does look like it is some kind of a flash grenade. On this caption, though, really quickly, it does say that it is a hand grenade. It doesn't really specify whether it's a flash grenade or a fragmentation grenade, but that is still absolutely insane to see some guy just sitting on a park bench go, hey, check this out, and I just go throw a grenade at some kids. It's like, what the hell's wrong with you, man? But anyways, y'all get the gist. Crazy crap's going on the Volga River. It's kind of normal in Russia. Yeah, he's probably an alcoholic, getting sloshed, but hey, such is the life of an absolute G. But moving on from that, and out of Russia, we're now going to be moving on into North Korea, because we actually did get a little bit of news from North Korea today, and it does appear that the North Koreans were able to enter an arms deal with the Russians. There was a lot of hypothesis here, and I would like to say this really quickly because there was a lot of ideas and people had a lot of opinions of what may come out of this North Korean arms deal. And some people said it will probably be a proxy for the Chinese to send equipment to the Russians through North Korea. Some people also said they're probably going to have nothing to send. My opinion was that they were probably going to be sending bare basic equipment that was very easy to manufacture. Things like small arms, maybe some MLRS rockets, but they'll most likely be unguided. And we got news today from Pyongyang in North Korea that they will be supplying MLRS rockets exclusively at this moment. So it does appear that they are going to be producing the cheap equipment and the easily produced equipment that we know North Korea is able to manufacture. Beyond that, at this point, it doesn't appear that they're going to be giving anything else to the Russians. Of course, the arms deal could be expounded on, and they could start adding more stuff in. But it does appear that North Korea is going to be a provider of largely low-end and relatively cheap equipments to send to the Russians. And while we've seen that the North Koreans have produced their first nuclear submarine, and they've also started to get into modern main battle tanks, there are some questions about how legitimate the modern main battle tanks are, and also we haven't seen the North Korean nuclear submarine in operation yet. So we don't really know how effective modern North Korean war industry will be. One thing we do know, however, is that North Korea has always required imports from foreign countries to keep any kind of advanced or modern weaponry within their arsenal. And if we look at their arsenal, and really quickly, let me go take y'all to that North Korea military equipment. Let me go here. So here's their equipment, and we can see that a lot of their guns are rip-offs of the Tokarevs or other Soviet-era pistols. Of course, they've been able to get their hands on some more modern ones like the High Power. I love the FN High Power. I think it's a great pistol. But moving on beyond that, we've also seen that they, of course, have their usual lot of incredibly archaic weapons, to say the least. The PPSH-41, the PPS-43, the VZ-61, otherwise called the Scorpion, and also a couple of Sterlings, apparently, from the United Kingdom. I don't know how they got those. I've shot one of these in real life before, and I gotta say, it's not that bad. It's actually a pretty decent little SMG, but, you know, incredibly dated, incredibly old by today's standards. Of course, they have their normal small arms. We can see all of the North Korean variants. Here's the Type 68. Good God, man! Where did this come from? Fallout 4?
Looks like it's been through the ringer. It's got some paint on it. Man, that metal has been just ruined.
Dude, some North Koreans sat here and, like, violently assaulted this AK for it to look like this. I don't know what happened to it, but this is horrendous. Like, the paint's gone. It looks like it was made with a file. This is horrendous. This is literally terrible. But anyways, moving on, we can see that they also have an AK-74 variant, the Type 88, moving on past all their small arms, and all the way down to their actual tanks. And we don't really have any good pictures of their tanks, at least not a lot of them. But we do have information that they have around 1,200 Chonma-Hos. And a lot of y'all might be like, dang, look at that thing. That thing looks like a Ho. And y'all will be right, because it's a T-62. It's a ripoff. So, you know, really like 1,200 T-62s of different variants. Some of them have ERA armor. Some of them actually have man pads mounted to the turrets. But at the end of the day, it's still a T-62. You can only make a T-62 so good until there's nothing to really improve on. So we know that most of their tank force is made up of T-62s. Most of those had to be imported from the Soviet Union or China, and then they further upgraded them into the Chonma-Ho. But moving on from that, we also know of this thing here, which is an absolute lie. Like, this thing is just purely deceiving people, because look at the way the light glistens off the side of this tank, and also how smooth everything looks. I'm telling y'all this right now. This is some kind of a wooden facade built on top of a Chonma-Ho, most likely.
And look at that. Look at the edges on the bottom of it. It's cut like it was cut with like one of those jigsaw like machines for wood. It's not straight like metal typically is when it's cut. That's really strange looking. And also, what's up with the side skirts for like the tracks? Like, look at that. It's like made out of paper or something.
Yeah, they put rubber flaps over it, probably so that way you couldn't see the wheelbase too good to get an idea of what tank this is a ripoff of. But we don't really know a lot about this tank. Of course, you know, I had to put that out there. We saw.
It ought to be made like or sponsored by Rust-Oleum or something. It's like the high school project tank.
Dude, this thing is just terrible looking. Also, Like, I have many questions. You know what? We're going to go in a little bit of a rabbit hole about this thing because I have so many questions about this stupid tank. Okay, so the idea of this thing is for it to be a modern main battle tank, but the problem is that one, do y'all notice how high out of the cupola the commander and gunner is? I mean, that's way out of the norm, even for North Korean military parades. Like, they're at knee level. Like, their knees are almost out on the top of these cupolas. And that's telling me that this little facade here is fake, and they're probably, like, kneeling down on top of the turret with the hatches closed up there, and they're just kind of, like, sitting inside of the fake cupolas or something like that. Also, if you look at the ERA armor that is attached to the front of this main battle tank, it is practically ineffective. I mean, these little ERA tiles right here are like the size of your hand. So there's no way that these are actually going to be doing anything or helping anything out because they're covering such a small surface area of the turret. Another thing is that the smoke grenade launchers are recessed into the turret, meaning that a hole had to have been made if it's a real tank and it has real armor. A hole had to be drilled into its composite armor on the turret for the smoke grenade launchers to fit inside. So that means that that is an inherent weak spot of the turret that any tank could probably shoot through with relative ease. Another weird thing about this tank is that the front is just so damn devoid of really anything. I mean, it's devoid of any textures, you know, for people to get traction on a smooth surface. There's like nothing on it. And if we took a good look at this tank, I'm sure we could figure out what it really is under this thing. Let's see. These started developing. Let me see if we have any actual good background. North Korea was able to obtain T-72s. DPKA held a rare nighttime parade. 9 of the new tanks were unveiled. And let's see. The tanks displayed were stated to be prototypes. So they do state that they are prototypes, but still, there's a lot to be said about the questionability of this thing. And also, its gun is a 2A46 gun. And if I remember correctly, that is the exact same gun that is used on the T-72. As a matter of fact, I'm so adamant that this is probably some kind of a really souped up looking T-72. Let's take a moment to see if we can get a better picture of the M2020. So the M2020 tank. M2020 tank. And let's see if we can get a good picture of it from the side. Here we have it. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we got 7 road wheels. Let's go to a T-72. Let's see what we got on the T-72. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we go back and count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it actually has one more road wheel than a T-72. So it might not be a T-72. Let's go and look at a T-80 real quick. And let's see if a T-80 has that many road wheels. And they are fairly large, so we know that it's not a T-64 under that thing. It's probably maybe a T-80 if it has the same amount of road wheels. So this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But they're laid out in a very unique design. This one also, once again, has 7. So it may actually be the case they have made some kind of a prototype main battle tank. But still, there's so many things just inherently wrong with what this thing looks like that I'm highly doubting that it's real. And also, here's apparently another picture of them. This time they removed the little ERA things from the front of them. And something is just off about these tanks. These actually have a little bit more detail to them that you can see. Like, they actually have a little bit of textured surface on top of them, that kind of stuff. But there's still something off about them. And also, Matthew, is it just
all
me?
straight edges, I think. That's the problem. It's like plywood or something, because you can typically bend metal, to my understanding, but you really can't bend wood like the same way. And this tank is literally all straight edges, like the way you'd cut plywood.
Yeah, and another thing, Matthew, that I was just looking at is, doesn't it look a lot from the front, from this angle, like the turret is a ripoff, a direct ripoff of an M1 Abrams turret?
Yeah, it does, actually. It's, you know, if you didn't know any better, you'd think the turret was inflatable or something, like they just stuck it on top of it like one of those decoy tanks.
Yeah, you know, it looks so weird. There's just something wrong with it, because look at how light reflects off of normal tank armor, like this M1 Abrams here. Notice how it's pretty matte. It's pretty matted in its, like, light variances. You don't really see a lot of change. And then on this thing, you got little glistening, shining areas. I mean, you know, maybe the paint job is helping out a little bit in making that happen, but at the same time, there is just something weird and off about this tank. And it's just looking a little odd. But nevertheless, here's an M1 Abrams turret. There's this turret. You can see they kind of do look a little similar, like they got some design ideas from the Abrams for this little mock-up tank. But with that, We got to get off of that rabbit hole. Y'all get the picture, though, from our little rabbit hole here. The North Koreans don't have an ability, for the most point, of producing anything more elaborate than a basic small arms or unguided rockets. So we know that it's only going to extend to that point for the Russians and won't probably help them out a great deal. But moving on from the North Korean news, of course, relating to the Ukraine war, and moving back into Ukraine, we also got some additional news today from Sevastopol, which one could say is certainly breaking, by no question. But before we get into the breaking news at Sevastopol, which is absolutely insane, by the way, I'm not trying to hype it up, but we've gotten a report today that is pretty amazing, if true, and we'll be, of course, waiting to see if it is confirmed. But so many of y'all have been talking about what's happened to Ramzan Kadyrov. We have to talk about what y'all have been saying. So with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so we're moving into our first poll and question segment, and our first poll about Ramzan Kadyrov says he's allegedly on his deathbed, and what do you think caused his sudden demise? 56% said he was poisoned by someone, 27% said he's dying of substance abuse, 10% said he's dying of natural causes, and 7% said he's not dying, and it's totally false. And from what I have seen, we can only take guesses at it really, but it looks like he's been in bad shape for a few months now. He's been noticeably swollen in several public photos that have been published of him, and some people speculate he's having liver issues or something to that effect. And also Trister, who's in the chat, who is a doctor, seems to believe that it's not a poisoning incident, if I can talk straight. I'm over here stuttering like crazy. But I would have to agree. I would have to say it's probably something with the liver or something like that. But I'm no doc, so that's just my speculation. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say I wouldn't really know. Of course, I'm not a doctor or anything. We're trying to be lawyers. And so don't really know a lot about the medical field. It could really be anything, in my opinion. He could have been poisoned. He could have poisoned himself with opiates. He could just be having terrible medical issues where he's had organ failure, and now he's in that situation. Regardless, it does appear that everyone's kind of on the same page, though. Whatever has happened to him, he's on the way out, so we'll be pretty surprised if he does make it through. And so with that, I hope we are able to address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our second poll, it says Belarus, Russia, and North Korea are negotiating a quote-unquote trilateral alliance, and should the West be worried? 55% said no, it won't work out for them. 29% said yes, alliances are dangerous. 10% said I need more info about it, and 7% said unsure. And I will say that even though these countries on their own probably aren't that big of a concern, if you put all three of them together, they might be able to put their brain cells together and come up with something that might be effective somewhat. So obviously, strength does come in force, and with them teaming up, that could potentially be dangerous. I'm not seeing anything thus far to suggest that it's a extreme threat, but the West seems to be taking it like it's very seriously. And I'm kind of shocked the way the West is reacting to North Korea. Because, they're reacting like North Korea has some pretty potent weaponry, even though we've been told that they don't have very much. So I'm not sure if we're being told the whole truth, like I said before, but I'm going to have to say I need more info about it first. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say the United States' knee-jerk reaction to whatever the North Koreans are doing is because they have nuclear weapons, for the most part. It's the same way we've reacted to the Russians before this war broke out in 2022, freaking out every single time they did anything, is because they have nuclear weapons. There's nothing in North Korea's military that is redeemable to say it's a modern military, a competent one, or an advanced one. You can just see that in their actual combat uniforms, or the uniforms that are used on the DMZ. They are still wearing uniforms that would have been used by, hell, the Chinese in the 50s. And most of their weapons also appear to be from the same time as well. Another thing that lets us in, or cues us in very well, that the North Koreans are archaic is a video that we got a few years ago that showed Kim Jong-un at a North Korean Air Force, air show. So let me go pull that up. Kim Jong-un Air Show. Let's see here. Should be able to find it. Let me just go type in North Korean Air Show. North Korean Air Show. And here we go. This is from 2013. We know that not a lot has actually changed since 2013 as far as North Korea is concerned. So really quickly, we're going to shoot through this and just show y'all what the North Korean Air Force is, because some people, and Matthew actually believes that the North Koreans may have some extra abilities that we don't know about. I have to completely disagree with that. The North Koreans are about in the 1970s as best as it gets technologically. But here's the MiG-29. This is actually the most advanced fighter aircraft in their Air Force, and this is considered one of the least advanced aircraft in Ukraine right now. And when you hear the hyped up news reporter doing their thing.
One day I wish to have the like energy and stuff that this woman has that's narrating all their stuff, because she's like crazy.
Yeah, she is. But anyways, we're gonna
Sounds like she's narrating for her life or something.
Oh yeah, well she probably is. I mean, if she gets it wrong, she's
Yeah.
probably executed, man. Or she has to have a night with Kim Jong-un. One or the other. It's still death the same way in a bad form. But also, this is a MiG-21 F-13. The whole importance of it being an F-13 is that this was actually the first MiG-21 ever introduced into service in history. They are incredibly archaic. They can only mount, I believe, 2 air-to-air missiles, and the air-to-air missiles they can fire are so old and unadvanced that an F-4 Phantom would probably have an easy time getting away from one of them or evading it. And then the next thing is a MiG-23. Well, actually, whoops, sorry, it's actually a MiG-17, about from the 1950s. Well, the very early 1950s. You can see
Also
that
known as the ugly.
Yeah, also known as the pig nose. But there it goes. And she's hype as hell about this. It's the best thing she's ever seen. Here's a MiG-23. The MiG-23s were introduced into service in the mid-1970s in the Soviet Union. It can carry around 6 air-to-air missiles. 2 of them, I believe, would be somewhere around R-27s or R-24s, I believe. And then it can also carry some R-60s as well. All of those missiles, by modern standards, are obsolete for the most part. I mean, in most parts of the world, this is actually considered a flying museum. And then when you hear the epic music
Damn, he
swell,
looks so young. Dude looks like he's like 10 years old in that photo.
Damn, he does! Yeah, that's crazy, man. He's actually not aged well over, like, the past 10 years.
Is that even the same person? Look
Yeah.
at that jacket, not even fitting right either.
Man, I'm telling that dude, this is so weird looking, man. That's like from a totally different world.
Man, his hairline was totally different too. It was like way back on his head. It's like he had Bosley or something.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah, you know, he may have had some, like, hair implants or something. And man, they're all impressed because they've already seen anything fly before. And now we can see, I believe it's the MiG-21 landing. Yeah, it's the MiG-21. Wait, hang on. Actually, correction here. It appears to actually be a MiG-21 SMT, possibly, because of the bulbous spine that it has closer to the cockpit. That tells us that it might be a little bit more advanced, so it may actually be able to carry something around 4 surface-to-air missiles. Well, not surface-to-air missiles, sorry. Air-to-air missiles. All of them still would be an R-60 variant, though. Still archaic by modern standards. And also, this aircraft doesn't have an advanced radar. Its radar, if I even remember if it has one, and I think it may have one, but it's a very basic radar system. It's not able to pick up aircraft that are below it in altitude, among a whole bunch of other things. Fairly archaic aircraft by modern standards. And, man, they love that thing, apparently. I don't know what's up with it.
You know, this has to be a bittersweet moment, like these air shows, because they're getting to show off their old antiques, but at the same time, they're using up all their fuel that they have.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, you know? I wonder how much gas is left in North Korea after an air show like this, because they don't have massive gas reserves.
It's like they got to plan their wars around the air show.
Yeah.
Him said, how much fuel's left?
Yeah, he's sitting there. So, can we afford flying another plane? There goes the MiG-21 again.
Pull back the throttle a little bit. Save the gas. Efficiency.
Dude, what the hell is he laying back in this chair like this for, man? He's laying back like he's a kid in high school that just got in trouble. He's at the principal's office. What is up with this? So really quickly, I'm going to skip forward a little bit because this is really a treat right here. These are probably the few flying examples of this aircraft in the world, an Ilyushin-28. These came out in the late 1940s and were supposed to be a Soviet frontline bomber. The North Koreans still have some of these in flying condition, and if I'm correct, I believe they are the only examples of their kind in the world left flying. That's how old these aircraft are. So I'm going to skip forward a little bit because it's just the Ilyushin. And we can also see them bombing. Wait a minute, did they just miss? Hang on, let me check this again.
Dude was tracking that plane with his head like air defense.
Yeah, dude, he turned into a Patriot missile system, right? Are you kidding me, man? Wait a minute, hang on. They're actually bragging about the biplane, the Antonov 2. They're acting like the Oh, my lord. Okay, Mandy, this is why I always say that the North Koreans are just ass backwards. I mean, look, they're bragging about the Antonov 2. Not even the Russians brag about the Antonov 2.
It's like something a Baron would have flown like in old German times or something.
Yeah, it is. Oh my god. You know, it just can't get worse, can it?
Look at air defense going strong.
Yeah, let's watch that one more time. Dude, he sat there. Target acquired. So then it fires off its unguided rockets and misses the target completely with the first rocket, hits it dead center with the second one. Very high. Man, how big is this target?
Big enough where you can't miss.
Yeah, they made it a whole field.
I've never seen a biplane fire missiles before. That's something else.
I have in World War II. Oh my god! Oh my god, are you kidding me? That thing looks like a Dornier 215, man. Like from World War II. I don't even know what model of plane that is. Dude, everyone's clapping because they know they're all gonna die if they ever use this in a war. They're all like, "Yay! Hopefully we don't use it." There goes the MiG-29 again. By the way, the North Koreans only have, I think, like 4 or 6 MiG-29s. It's not a massive number. This is their most advanced plane. That's like their F-22 to them. But anyways, air show ends. Plane lands. Plane lands on this shoddily maintained runway. Like there's grass growing all over it. And Jesus Christ, do they land these things any quicker? I mean, like fighter aircraft do land at a higher airspeed, but these guys are landing this thing at like what appears to be like 300 miles an hour. Like, look at this. Hang on, here it comes back again. Like, holy moly, man. Talk about wearing out the tire's lifespan, man. The tires are going to be like glowing red hot when this plane comes to a stop. Jesus Christ. I actually want to go get y'all a video of a normal MiG-29 landing because this is just so damn fast. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot. They do have some Su-25s. They're showing these off at the very end. And I believe they're the very early versions as well, Su-25Ks, something like that. And he's just smiling and laughing. He's having a good time. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. Actually, they do have an Su-25T. That's actually the one of the more modern versions of the Su-25. But that's the end of the clip. That's the whole air show.
North Korea is like the flea market of the military aviation world or something.
Yeah, and it's like that for every aspect of their military as well. It's all backwards and very old, and that's why I'm not in the idea. And that was 10 years ago, and they haven't gotten any new aircraft over 10 years. So they've only lost aircraft out of their flying inventory over the past 10 years, most likely. So going off of that, they are not a country that is like a world superpower or anything militarily. We just have knee-jerk reactions to every single rival nation in the world whenever they do anything that may be to their benefit.
Well, that was a pretty long time ago, though. It looked like it was like from, what, 10 years ago or something?
Well, yeah, but they haven't gotten a shipment of aircraft from anyone in the world. Like, they haven't bought aircraft from the Chinese. They haven't bought aircraft from the Russians. No one sold them anything, so we know for sure that they haven't been growing out that inventory over the past 10 years. They still have that same stuff.
Maybe, I guess. I mean, they've gotten some nukes in the meantime. They've made some progress. I think it's not because of their own work. It's probably because other people are giving it to them.
Oh, probably, but still, in my opinion, beyond the nuclear weapons, North Korea is worse than Russia. Their military doesn't even really exist in large scale because there's no logistics for that military either when you really get down into the weeds. But with that, I would have to say the United States reaction is more of just a knee-jerk one to them being a rival country with nuclear weapons, or an enemy country for the most part with nuclear weapons. And beyond that, there isn't really a lot to be afraid of with North Korea because, of course, they are an archaic and ancient nation, and the Belarusians don't really have a military on top of that. So the Russians are just kind of teaming up with the useless nations, and it's not really going to provide them any actual benefit in a conventional war. And even still, the North Koreans won't be providing the Russians a benefit in a nuclear war, because while the North Koreans do have nuclear weapons, it's not a large amount of them. The Russians still have so many more nuclear weapons than the North Koreans, even if half of them are not functional, that adding North Korea into the lot, it's a drop in the bucket. But with that, I hope that does address that poll fairly well, with video evidence, by the way, of North Korea's archaicness. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. So with that being said, that was our last poll for now. So we're moving into our super chat questions. And up first, we have a $20 donation from Wellness, LSA, SA. And thank you very much, Wellness, very much for that support. And we do appreciate it very much. And he says, done. Please pick a question from the trippy imagination or random bot, LOL.
Dun. I'm dying of a liver failure. Dun.
But still, thank you so much for the support, Wellness, LSA, SA. And thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running. We will pick a question from Trippy Imagination. Is that someone in the live chat, or is that like an abstract idea?
I think it's like an abstract idea.
So, what do we have, Matthew? What do we have?
So, I'm not calling this person a random bot, by the way, but it is a question from the chat. And we have one from Dirty Dog, who says, hello, Matt, and hello, Dirty Dog. They said, I'm a little bit behind on the stream, and I noticed the newer North Korean tank. And did you all notice how short the chassis is? And Enforcer, did you notice?
Actually, it seemed like the chassis was long, because based off of just a road wheel count, the road wheels do look similar in diameter to that of a T-72. It actually appears that it's slightly longer, but we don't have actual dimensions to work off of, so it may be a little bit shorter. It may be that they just have more road wheels on it, giving the track angles near to the the drive wheel and the front guide wheel a lot steeper of an elevation, but nevertheless, it may be shorter, may be longer. Couldn't really tell, to be honest with you. But still, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for support, Wellness, once again, and helping this channel to keep on running. And we're glad to have you back tonight. It's good to see that you're with us, and thank you so much for helping us to keep this thing rolling, because y'all's support helps us to keep the lights on. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
Also, quick PSA, by the way, if you have a live chat question, feel free to put @EnforcerMatt in the chat with your question behind it, because right now I only have 3 more, and I think we're going to need some more than that. So your odds of having your question answered tonight are pretty high, because we're pretty low on live chat questions. But with that being said, moving on to our next super chat, we have one from W, who puts in a $20 donation, and thank you very much, W, as well. And they said, can you please show the Kadyrov basketball video so we can all laugh at the midget?
Oh, we're going to have to pull that up. And I thank you so much for the support, W. And I'm going to go try and find that real quick. Kadyrov basketball. Let's see here. Hang on. We've got one. I don't know if this is the one, but it's got 15,000 views. It's from a year ago. And he looks like a social media influencer with all the people gathered around him. So let's check it out. Okay, so he's sitting in the middle of the court. He's about to make the shot. What?
What is he wearing, by the way?
Dude, what is that form? Look at his form. What the hell? Man, even I'm
Dude
not
sounds like
athletic.
a pirate out there.
Yeah, he does. Oh my god. 4th time's the charm, right? Oh, he bricked it right in the net.
Damn.
He's getting closer now. Still didn't make it. He bounced it off the rim.
Uh-oh, don't laugh at him too hard. That could be a death sentence.
Dude, everyone was cheering him on at the start, and now everyone's treating him like an idiot. But anyways, with that, that's the end of the clip. And now everyone knows not just that Ramzan Kadyrov sucks, he also sucks at basketball as well. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, W. And also, I hope that everyone was able to laugh at the little midget man, small guy, who was out there trying to throw a basketball, doesn't even know how to throw it, and then he missed every single time. But with that, thank you so much once again. We are on to the final question of this segment, and then we're going to be moving back into the Ukraine war news.
And this one goes to Just Chillin', who puts in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, Just Chillin'. And also, welcome back. And it's good to see you once again. And he said, Enforcer and Enforcer Matt, I appreciate the value and your dedication, talent, reliability, teamwork, and commitment to excellence. Long live the LSA and Slav Ukraine. And that is some high praise, Just Chillin', and thank you very much.
And that is really high praise. And I got to thank you so much for the support, Just Chillin', and also putting a huge commendation to us in that super chat. It means so much to us that people enjoy this channel a great deal, and it really is special when folks go out of their way to let us know that y'all love this channel a great deal. We try our best to make sure that this thing runs 6 days a week, you know, and of course, not trying to make it sound like it's a bad thing, but Matthew can actually tell you I was so exhausted today, I hardly was able to get up and even put together the news for this stream. I was actually about 20 minutes...
I can attest to that.
Yeah, I was about 20 minutes late to putting this together, but I love to know that regardless of how exhausted we are, how tired we are, how much we have to do, every one of y'all enjoys the amount of effort and time that we put into this, so that way we can make sure that the news is reported every single day, and to keep people's eyes and minds on this war and not just allow them to kind of wander around and just move on to other things. It means a lot to me, and also means a great deal like that folks like you, Just Chillin', have been here for so long, because you've been an old guard of this channel, and you've certainly been here since the first month. And I've got to thank you so much once again for giving such high praise to the channel and helping us to keep this thing rolling, because through your support, we are able to keep on going. We're able to keep this thing alive. And really, we could keep it live. Like, here's the thing. We could, and I'm just saying this as a hypothetical, we could have sponsors and run ads on these streams, but the Enforcer channel wouldn't really be the Enforcer channel like it is now, because we would have to bend the will to AdSense. We would have to make sure that YouTube's happy with what's being shown on air, meaning that we wouldn't really be able to do some of the things or say some of the things that we say on air. We also would probably have to bend our will to sponsors as well if we got any on these streams, and we wouldn't be able to say certain things, do certain things. Hell, some sponsors actually require that you take a political leaning, and a lot of y'all know I'm very adamant and militant about having no political leaning on the channel and keeping things completely neutral. And thanks to folks like you, Just Chillin', we're able to keep everything the way it is. We're able to joke the way we joke. We're able to cover the news the way we want to. We're able to, hell, even set out our own rules, like no politics and all kinds of things like that. And so I gotta thank you so much for the support, because through your support, we're able to keep doing this as a job, and we're able to ensure that everything that makes this channel special continues on. And so thank you so much once again, Just Chillin', for the kind words, and long live the Lee Spring Army, and Slava Ukraini. And so with that, thank you so much. I hope we were able to address that fairly well, Just Chillin'. And with that, we are now going to be moving on from that news, from the question segment. That's how tired I am. And we're now going to be moving on down into Sevastopol. And today's news in Sevastopol was big. Call up your family, call up everyone you know, because we're about to be getting into something that really is, and I'm not even kidding, straight up juice. Many of y'all heard the other day that both Project 22-160 corvettes were damaged possibly in the Black Sea by Ukrainian drone attacks. And I'll be showing y'all the 22-160s again, just to give y'all an idea of the situation going on into today. Both of these ships, I believe the Black Sea Fleet only has the two of them, have ended up being possibly damaged by the Ukrainian drone attacks from yesterday. We also know that there is a Rapucha, and let me go, Rapucha class landing ship right here, that has also been completely destroyed in dry dock, and also the Rostov-on-Don submarine that was also in the adjacent dry dock is a complete write-off as well, even according to the British Ministry of Defense putting out a report today. The submarine is a complete write-off and a loss. And so right now, we're looking at possibly two modern corvettes being knocked out of action for a small while, a Rapucha-class ship completely destroyed, and a Kilo-class submarine completely destroyed as well. Today, we heard additional information that the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense has reported that they were able to hit a Russian hovercraft, and that's the one pictured here, the Russian missile ship Salmon. It's a hovercraft, but also a missile ship, and they were able to hit it with a Sea Baby. That's according to reports right now. We haven't gotten any official reports from the Russian government saying that they were magically able to stop everything from hitting the ship and damaging it. But nevertheless, it appears that this may be the fifth ship that was targeted and damaged just over the past few days by the Ukrainians. And honestly, Matthew, with the way the Ukrainians have been going ham on the Russian Navy, makes me feel like they've been holding back the entire war on the Russians, because they are slaughtering them over these past few days. But really quickly,
Yeah, it's weird. I think it's mainly because they got those Sea Baby drones, so they're feeling really emboldened to go on the offensive very strongly. Now I know the attack on the submarine and also the landing ship, the Rapucha, and the harbor, that was most likely Storm Shadow. But I think the Sea Baby has given them the encouragement to go ahead and start attacking more vessels.
and apparently so. And we actually don't have a lot of pictures of the salmon right here. And I'm calling it the salmon because it looks like salmon, sounds like salmon. And it is a Bora class. It appears that there's really almost no information on this class of ship. It was commissioned in February of 2000, meaning that this ship is entirely a Federation vessel, not an old Soviet holdover. This is one of the few ships in the Russian Navy that was actually created during the times of the Russian Federation after the collapse of the Soviet Union. This little thing here, gotta be honest with y'all, I don't really know a lot about the ship. It does does claim that it is some kind of a missile ship, meaning that its sole purpose is most likely to fire off cruise missiles or anti-ship missiles, and that's about it. But from what we're hearing today, it does appear that this ship was targeted and hit and also damaged. We don't know how extensive the damage is. We don't know if any crew were lost. We don't know if the ship is sinking at the moment, but the Ukrainians were able to apparently attack the ship today, and apparently got something out of it that was good enough that they are reporting positive news on it. And so this is an absolutely amazing bit of news. Once again, another Russian Black Sea ship is going to be knocked out of action. Probably we'll wait to see some actual proof of damage to the vessel. But if we do get that proof, it is another ship that has bit the dust or has joined the submarine fleet. Honestly, Matthew, now with the submarine being destroyed, I don't think we can say they joined the submarine fleet because the submarine fleet is ceasing to exist right now. So
that's true. That's true. I'm still in shock that they were able to hit the submarine. Like nothing can really top that at this point, unless there's a larger submarine that they could hit. Because like if we get official confirmation this hovercraft was damaged, because I don't think it was actually destroyed. I think it was just severely damaged, is the story, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, if we get word that this thing was actually severely damaged and Ukraine's taking out another large vessel like the Samuma right here, that's monumental.
And also, John Vanzo said, is it a hovercraft or a hydrofoil? And I know why you're saying that, because you're seeing these weird little propeller screws back here that are on like an adjustable mount. And I was thinking that too. I'm not really sure if it is a hovercraft. People have been calling it a hovercraft. But let's see if we can get any information. It was laid down in the shipyard in 1991, commissioned in 2000. Put into the Black Sea Fleet, spinner model. Oh, well, actually, Wikipedia is actually addressing, oh, dang, apparently. The ship allegedly was towed away for extensive damage on one side. The Russian Defense Ministry claimed that the attack was repelled. So at the moment, that's the information we have according to Wikipedia, but we still don't have a lot of information about this ship. Let's see here. The Bora class hovercraft. So we actually have a little bit of information about this thing. It's classified as a corvette. It is a hoverborne guided missile corvette. So that means that it's not really a hovercraft, but it's more so of a, I guess it is better to say it's more so of a hydrofoil. I don't really know what the hell a hoverborne ship is. Let's actually read about that a little bit and see what it is. Is a watercraft that has both an air cushion like a hovercraft and twin hulls like a catamaran. When the air cushion is in use, a small portion of the twin hulls remain in the water. When the air cushion is turned off, the full weight of the vessel is supported by the buoyancy of the twin hulls. So it's kind of like a hovercraft catamaran hybrid from what we're understanding from that. How fast can this thing go, considering it's a hovercraft, sort of? Apparently, its top speed is 63 miles an hour, so this thing can kick it if it wants to. But its cruising speed is actually somewhere around 12 knots, but when it becomes a hovercraft, it can go up to about 63 miles an hour, so probably one of the fastest surface ships in the Russian Black Sea Fleet. But, according to the information we're getting, it probably won't be because it's been seriously damaged and will now be knocked out, most likely to be refit. But then that's where the next problem comes in, and that's in the Ministry of Defense report. And so let's go to the British Ministry of Defense report and let's read it and let's see what we got in it. In the early hours of the 13th of September, the Russian Black Sea Fleet was rudely awakened by an explosion that ended up wiping out 2 ships they got yee-yeed on. Despite the Russian Ministry of Defense downplaying the damage to the vessels, open source evidence indicates the Minsk has almost certainly been functionally destroyed, while the Rostov has suffered catastrophic damage. Any effort to return the submarine to service is likely to take many years and cost hundreds of millions of dollars. There's a realistic possibility that the complex task of removing the wreckage from the dry docks will place them out of use for many months. This will present the Black Sea Fleet with a significant challenge in sustaining fleet maintenance, a very important part of naval operations. The loss of the Rostov removes one of the BSF's 4 cruise missile-capable submarines, which have played a major role in striking Ukraine and protecting Russian power across the Black Sea and the eastern Mediterranean. And so from what we're hearing, the Salmon, if it was hit out in the Black Sea today, will not be able to get repaired if it's seriously damaged. It will be in a queue until these dry docks here are emptied out. We don't really know of many other dry docks. There is one up here. Don't really know if that one's going to be open or available. But one thing is clear, the Russians now have 2 less dry docks to work with. So if there's any maintenance requirements to just shoot up, they're going to have to largely be put in a queue or a waiting line to be able to use the only available dry docks that are open right now. Or they're going to have to be taken all the way to Novorossiysk, and I believe they only have 1 dry dock, and it's kind of like a partial dry dock. It's a floating one, and I believe it's right here, if I remember correctly. So there are some dry docks available, maybe only around 2 at this point in the entirety of the Black Sea, meaning that the Russian Black Sea Fleet now is in serious trouble. Moving on from this news and on up into our location unknowns, we also got some really interesting clips today showing some new Ukrainian weapons. And of course, this video was made by none other than United24, talking about that incredible stuff. And so, here's the clip.
Ukraine is trying to reduce its dependency on foreign aid by strengthening its own weapons industry, by building new factories, as well as developing new weapons systems. There are 2 main reasons for that. The first, as already mentioned, is obvious: to be able to bolster your own defense capabilities without having to rely on others. The second reason is economic. The war has really put a strain on the Ukrainian economy, causing inflation, the crash of industrial and agricultural sectors like steel or wheat. So the defense industry is something that hopefully can create jobs and essential income for the country itself and its population. The USA, for example, has provided Ukraine with military aid worth over $40 billion. From a military perspective, that's not only amazing, it's vital. From an economic standpoint, however, aid always creates dependencies. So, welcome to Talking Tactics, where this week we want to dive into the world of Ukrainian weapons and give an insight into the latest developments in the country's defense sector, who has produced what, and what deals have been made to secure the country's safety and essentially its future. We've previously done 3 episodes on this topic, one about the industry as a whole, the second about the witty and MacGyvery things Ukrainians come up with to counter the Russian army. The third is about Ukraine's new fleet of naval drones, which you can check out in our Black Sea episode. But since there's much more we never managed to cover, and hardly a month goes by without some big development, here is the World of Ukrainian Weapons 2.0. On the 31st of August, President Zelensky spoke of a new Ukrainian weapon boasting a range of 700 kilometers. He didn't mention any details. However, he made this statement just a day after an attack on an airbase in Russian Pskov, which left at least 4 military planes damaged. Pskov is closer to the borders of Estonia and Latvia than Ukraine. It's 800 kilometers north of Kyiv and about 700 kilometers from the northern border. So, what Ukrainian weapon is Zelensky talking about? Ukraine has been converting and modifying old weapons into new ones. 5 V-28 rockets for the S-200 system, for example, which date back from the 1960s and were retired by the hundreds during the past decades in Ukraine. They're fitted with a new guidance system, giving them a deep strike capability of more than 250 kilometers. The most recent and prized development is an upgraded version of the Neptune, originally an anti-ship missile that has been modified to attack land targets. On August 23rd, Kyiv used the modified Neptune anti-ship cruise missile to hit a Russian S-400 air defense system on the western tip of occupied Crimea. The modification concerns the guidance system, which, like modern drones, is now supposed to work not via GPS using outside communication, but with an internal GPS system. So, the map and target position are uploaded onto the missile, and it then follows this pre-dictated flight path. Just like with drones, this protects from spoofing, jamming, and against some forms of detection. With a range of supposedly around 400 kilometers, the new Neptune has a greater range than the ATACMS, which Ukraine has been requesting from the USA for the past 1.5 years. That doesn't mean the ATACMS aren't needed, and thankfully, there seems to finally be some light at the end of the tunnel regarding that topic, but it's good to have such a long-range missile in your own inventory. How big of an effort the retuning of the Neptune actually is, and what the actual production capacity will be, remains to be seen. But since the condition to not strike targets inside Russia is something set by most Western partners before delivering any military aid, a homegrown long-range weapon is obviously free from any of these political chains. However, with an impressive 400 kilometers, it's still 300 kilometers short of the 700 Zelensky threw into the media sphere. So, it's much more likely that this new Ukrainian weapon is an unmanned aerial vehicle or drone. Ukrainian drone production has expanded rapidly in the past months. We probably don't know even half of the models that are already taking off into the skies on a regular basis. But when it comes to these distances, one of the more likely options in the Ukrainian arsenal with the capability to carry out such long-range attacks is the Bobr, which means beaver in Ukrainian. Especially the Russian media sphere has been blowing up about...
Man, that thing looks like a little, like, water droplet. What the hell is this thing?
It's a little bit of a strange design. It almost reminds me of like a mini like blimp with wings or something.
Dude, the Russians see this thing and they go, "Oh, how cute!" And then they get blown up by it. Oh yeah.
Especially the
that was funnier to me than it was saying it. But anyways,
has been blowing up about this drone, which has apparently been used in multiple attacks on the Russian capital. It has a range of up to 1,000 kilometers. The flight time is 7 hours, can carry a warhead weighing 20 kilograms, and is capable of changing altitudes to pass air defense zones and change targets. But apart from these newer weapon systems that have the potential to be exported globally sometime in the future, Ukraine has also been expanding its defense portfolio by offering its land to become a production hub for global arms producers. It's not a coincidence that the country will be hosting the first so-called Forum of Defense Industries later this year. A platform where the world's leading developers and largest arms manufacturers, together with the military and political leadership of Ukraine, will work together to develop new alliances and strategies to support international security and launch joint projects. Sweden and Ukraine have already agreed to jointly produce the Swedish CV-90 infantry fighting vehicles, which is manufactured by BAE Systems here in Ukraine, with the first target being the production.
man, I guess you could say that Sweden is Ukraine's bay.
Right. Man,
1,000 CV-90s.
Oh, man.
CV-90s are comparable to the American M2 Bradleys or German Marders, an infantry fighting vehicle used mainly for assault operations during Ukraine's counteroffensive. A similar agreement was made between Ukroboronprom, the Ukrainian defense conglomerate, and its Polish counterpart, the PGZ, for the production of 125mm tank shells in Ukraine. 125mm shells are used by Ukraine's Soviet-era tanks like the T-72. The Turkish defense company Baykar has already started constructing a factory in Ukraine to produce Bayraktar drones. The TB2 is one of the most effective combat drones in the world, proving its worth not only in Ukraine, but through deployments around the globe, like in Syria and Libya. Last but not least, German defense giant Rheinmetall has announced the opening of a factory here in Ukraine in 2023. So you see, a lot is happening, but if you think this means swift victory, be aware, also Russia is stepping up its production. In a different way, of course, more on its own and more scrambly, if you will, although recent reports show that the country still relies massively on foreign technology for its weapons production, foreign technology that it still receives from Western companies despite sanctions, but more on that some other time. To give a few examples, Russia is now producing the Iranian Shahed suicide drone by themselves, so in Russian factories on Russian soil. Its artillery production is meant to be ramped up to 2 million shells annually. Also, the production of their T-80 main battle tank, which was originally halted in the 1990s, apparently might be rebooted. Anyway, that's it for Talking Tactics. Thanks for watching, hit like and subscribe, and see you next time.
And that's the end of that clip, but going over some of Ukraine's longer range drones and some of the drones that have been making attacks on places like Moscow City and Sevastopol possible. Moving on from that and into our next bit of location unknown news, we also get to see what a Russian artillery battery operates like. This is actually a very rare clip and an insight into what a Russian artillery battery functions like at this point in the war. We get to take a good look at the Russian units' level of training, their speed in reloading the piece, their ability to aim the piece, and then of course just operate the artillery system. So let's check it out. Alright, pretty relaxed loading. They're acting like they're not in a war. Alright, they fire. Process is kind of slow. I mean, these guys act like they're shooting this thing for fun.
На часах 6:02. Орудие!
Overall, over these several clips, it seems as though Russian artillery operates very lackadaisically. They don't really operate at a quick speed. It doesn't really look like they emphasize a shoot and scoot doctrine. Of course, the clips were short, only about 8 seconds long, but just based off of how slow they're operating, it doesn't really appear like they're trying to set up fire and then move as quickly as possible. But moving on from that clip and into our last bit of location unknowns, we got the Russian casualty report for today. And no Bobcat skid steers.
0 Bobcats. Look at that. Lauren put it on the side over there. Looks like a no 0 consolation prize. Oh, man, I'm telling you.
A jelly donut.
Someone said, where's the submarine?
Man, where's... Dude, the submarine ain't showing up on this casualty report, man. But anyways, 470 Russian soldiers knocked out in the past 24 hours, 4 armored personnel carriers, 34 supply trucks, 13 tanks, 28 artillery systems, 17 drones, 5 LRSs, and a whopping 4 anti-aircraft warfare systems. It was overall a pretty damn impressive day as far as the Ukrainians were concerned, and they have been able to keep the Russian losses high. Moving on from that little bit of news and on into the front lines, we also got a little bit of footage today from the very northern area of the border showing Russian forces being hit somewhat hard by Ukrainian 82mm mortar fire. Check it out.
Отлично, 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 право 5.
Oh, and we got the rock music coming in. Actually, that's John Cena. Anyways, we can see that they're lining up the 82mm, again, getting ready to pump off a couple of more rounds. And we can see the mortar firing. And we can see it hitting the Russian target very successfully. We now see the command center. Oh! Geschlick Beleignment! We got a German up in here. He's wearing the Flecktard and everything. Man, this guy looks like he came literally straight out of the Bundeswehr. But anyways,
he kind of does. Like, I can't tell if the dude's like ripped and buff or is he just wearing like a ton of clothes over, like, you know, everything.
Probably ripped and buff because it is the summer, so it's kind of a little warmer over there. But we can see the artillery crew doing their thing, continuing to fire off some mortar rounds, and now it appears that they are on the move. You see him talking about something. And also, his call sign is a really cool, and it's Griffin. Like the bird, you know, or like the mythical creature, the Griffin. So that's pretty neat. But with that, that's the end of that clip right there. And I gotta say, it's wonderful to see that the Ukrainians were able to hit a Russian position today in that area with a mortar. Moving on from that and down into the Svatove area, we also got to see that the Wolves unit, the Wolves reconnaissance unit of the 74th Brigade, was able to drop some bomblets. Oh my lord. Well, that's great. So, keep that muted. But anyways, we can see the Russians wandering around their little outpost here pretty calmly. They don't really know they're being watched by a drone, but that's about to change here in a minute. Oh, buddy, they're about to find out. Oh, we just saw something happen down there. It's like someone threw dirt out of the bunker. And now we can see...
I'll put some dirt in your eye.
Man, I put some dirt in your eye. But we now see them lining up the bomblets to be dropped onto the outpost. And there it goes. I've never seen a bomblet like that before in my life. That's the first one ever. And we can see it blowing up right on top of the outpost. And maybe in a second we'll get some normal footage showing us what that looks like in normal view. Now we see the drone flying off. And sadly, we don't get the normal view again, but we did get to see that the hit was directly onto that little outpost, but we don't know how many Russians it was able to take on out. And so with that, that's the end of the clip right there, of course, Slava Ukraini. And with that, we're now going to be moving on from the actions of the 74th Brigade today, and we're going to be moving on down into the Crimea forest. We haven't seen a lot of frontline movements in the northeastern area. That's kind of why we're just moving through and covering the clips instead of going through a frontline analysis. But we did get to see that the Ukrainians discovered in the Crimea forest today, after moving up, a destroyed Russian tank that had been forgotten about for a while. This appears to either be a T-80 BVM or a T-90M. I'm most leaning towards it being a T-80 BVM, considering that, really quickly if I can zoom in. Well, hang on. I don't really know. It might be a T-90 because that turret down there actually looks a lot like a T-90 turret. So this may actually be a T-90M, but I'm going to have to hold judgment on it because I'm not exactly certain. It's a T-90M. Yeah, I'm looking at the ERA tiles. It's a T-90M. That's a destroyed T-90M that had been forgotten about for a while and rediscovered. It appears that it has been destroyed for months on end, as the rust is pretty firm and well grown over on this tank, showing us that it's been here for quite a long time. Moving on from that, we also got another clip showing some Ukrainian soldiers installing a Starlink, because regardless of whether, you know, Starlink is a system that, you know, people like or people hate, or how it's being paid for, or if it's even on or functioning, the Ukrainian forces still heavily rely on the internet connections that Starlink is able to provide to their armed forces, and we can see some Ukrainian soldiers going through the effort of trying to install a Starlink system on this tree.
Монтаж інтернету недорого, Ваня. Саныч, монтаж інтернету недорого.
And oh my lord, dude, this is an OSHA safety hazard, man. The OSHA inspector is breathing heavily right now. He's going, good God.
Так ми монтуємо Starlink на висоті 30 метрів.
This is insane. Like, I would not climb up this.
Ну, не прибрехуй.
Там перила не зробив.
Now they're
Dude sounds
passing
like a cartoon character in the background.
yeah, really, everybody. Oh my lord, man. Dude, I would not do this. I would not do this ever. This would scare the hell out of me.
Осторожно.
But they got the connection, and they're setting it up there on top of the tree, so now they'll have a Starlink connection in this area. It's just that they had to risk breaking every single OSHA rule in the book to be able to pull this off. Still pretty neat, though. With that, we're going to be moving on from the Crimea direction and what's been going on in the woods there, and we're now going to be moving on down into Bakhmut. This is the third wonder of the world tonight, because while we covered Ramzan Kadyrov dying, and, well, you know, in the process of dying, we also covered the salmon possibly being hit by Ukrainian forces. There is also some big news in Bakhmut as well, because apparently Ukrainian forces in the southern flank have been able to advance at a pretty good speed today and appear to have overrun Russian positions. But moving on to our first clip, we got to see in the northern area, where it's a little bit more quiet, the Russians were having some fun in the mud. Check it out. When you see the Russian outpost here, when you see the Ukrainian drone eyeballing it. We now see them dropping an F1 grenade, which falls right into the outpost, and then explodes. When you see a second, well, wait a minute, that's the same one actually, just from a different angle. And when you see the Russians are a little shocked about this, of course it knocked them around a little, kind of excited them. But you know how it is. It be like that sometimes.
I mean, if a grenade blew up behind me, I'd probably sit down and take a rest too.
Probably would. I wouldn't doubt that. I probably would sit there and do that too. But you see another grenade exploding off screen. It appears that the other Russian soldiers don't really know what to do at the moment. They're just kind of sitting around in the trench. We can see this one guy here. He's like, man, something beat me, bled. Suka, bled. Pizdik, I'm gonna get under the cam on that.
And he's trying to figure out if his wage agreement allows for a break or not.
When you see the other soldier down here. Oh! Dude! He just took him out! Dude, what the hell?
Wait a minute, what?
Hang on. Here's man. Look down trench. Russian soldier up here where the mouse cursor is right now. This guy comes out of his trench and he executes him.
Damn. Well, I mean...
What the hell? Dude, that is messed up.
I'm not sure what to say about that one.
I don't know what to say about this at all. I didn't even see this coming. Like, this was absolutely shocking. Let me take this off screen real quick to see if I can even show y'all the rest of this. I cannot.
I mean, I'll be honest. I'll be honest with you. Like, if the dude was like critically injured and it was going out, that would be a close call, because if the dude's over there, you know, screaming and yelling, and there's nothing they can really do, I don't know.
But they didn't even check on him. I mean, like, what?
I don't know. That's a tough one.
Well, Matthew, what do you think the U.S. military would do in that situation? You just see a guy.
They wouldn't do that.
Well, you just see a grenade explode near someone, so you just go and mercy kill him. He could be fine. I mean, he could be largely uninjured. Been a miracle, and then you just shoot him from about 20 yards away. I mean, that was messed up. I've never seen that happen.
Some people are saying that he didn't actually shoot. They're saying that he aimed the gun that way. But I'll be honest with you, if the Russians don't really save their people, which we know that they don't, they typically leave them behind. It could be a mercy elimination. I don't know.
Actually, those people in the live chat, I always like to try and keep windows open for options. No, because I actually pulled that video clip off screen, and you could clearly tell that that wasn't him just firing into the air to celebrate surviving. He executed the guy. You could see that in the other part of the clip. So it's pretty clear at this point that not only are the Russians not giving out medical care, but if you get wounded on the front lines, it's possible that your comrades could just end up executing you there on the spot. So that's pretty nuts. If y'all want to see that, I'm not going to be going back and showing that again. It's not that it's breaking YouTube guidelines or anything, but we do have to continue covering the rest of the news. If y'all want to see the whole clip, it is in the map, on our map that we custom make here every night. It's the only place you can find this map, and you can find a link to it in the description below the live stream. It's the very last one. It's the day 569 map. If you click on that, you can go here to this clip, click on it, and watch the entire thing for yourself front to back. And you will be able to see that it wasn't just a guy firing around the guy. He fired at him and ended up taking him out, executing him for receiving an injury on the front line. But with that, we're going to be moving on to the next clip where we saw the 77th Brigade, while I stuttered my way through that, dropping some nades on the Russians. We can see it right there, a pretty effective one. And the Russians go running for the hills and also rolling for the hills as well. Well, that's the end of the clip. Apparently, they don't have an executioner in this unit, so the wounded get to survive for a few more hours. But with that, we're going to be moving on behind the lines, where we also got to see the Asgard group hitting some Russian trucks back there and making sure that Russian logistics in the area are messed with a little bit. Also, we'll be muting that. And someone said, I didn't see them take anyone out. Yeah, because we can't show it on stream. So, you know, that is what it is. But, oh, wait a minute. Was that a Scooby-Doo van? Like, Zoink Scoop? I think it's going right out the window.
That Scooby-Doo van's got, like, stealth, like, cloaking device on it. It's, like, blending in with the ground.
Yeah, that's weird.
Scoop, we got some cloaking. Roll, Raggy, illegal.
Like, Zoink Scoop, the Romulans have closed us in.
Ruh-roh, Raggy, engage the cloaking device.
But anyways, you see them hitting a lot of.
Now, see, if the Ukrainians want to play the Russians game, they could say, oh, the Russians, they get the alien technology, bliat, and they go out here and use it on the battlefield.
Yeah, they could. Man, that's weird when the Russians say stupid stuff like that. It's like, how in the world do you even respond to that? Just flat out lies. And we see them hitting a dump truck. Man, the Russians got that dump truck. And we can also see them trying to go after a car. And they were able to get it. And so with that, that's the end of the clip. Very interesting to see. And very nice to know that the Asgard group of the Ochi division is helping to ensure that Russian logistics are messed with as best as possible. I also saw the Observer say something that I'd have to agree with completely, because there are people in the live chat who are insisting on the last video that the way I explained it is not the way it went, because they didn't see it on the stream. I can't show the whole video on the stream because the part I showed didn't violate community guidelines or anything. It was safe to show because it wasn't showing anything graphic. But if I showed anything beyond that point, this stream would be age restricted. So I can't show it to you live on air. You would have to go and click on the link in the description below for the day 569 map to be able to get on the map and then go to that marker and then click on it and watch for yourself. If you watch the whole video, it's very clear that what I'm saying happened. That guy didn't sit there and just shoot his rifle down that trench line and miss that guy. He hit him dead on when you look at the rest of the clip. So with that, we're going to be moving on from that. And, you know, of course, I would love for people, if they say something like, no, you're wrong, I would love for y'all to at least do a little bit of research for the folks who are saying that. So that way, if y'all are saying that, y'all are either saying that informed instead of just completely uninformed. So with that, we're going to be moving on into the southern flank of Bakhmut, where most of the major frontline actions happen today. Over the past 24 hours, Deep State UA is showing finally that the Ukrainians have taken control of Andriivka. It has been a massive frontline advance, of course, and absolutely impressive to see it finally being represented on Deep State UA, but we have covered this frontline advance for quite a while now. In fact, we've shown that the Ukrainians have controlled Andriivka for a pretty long time. But one thing we did get to see is that Russian soldiers did get wiped out pretty good. And so, here's the clip. This Russian soldier is hiding behind a destroyed APC trying to defend the area. We can also see a couple of other Russians there as well. Bomblet's on its way. And it got him. So it appears he won't be defending that area well. The 77th Air Mobile Brigade was also the one to do it. And looks like they're having fun times down there, for sure. And so with that, that's the end of that clip, but it appears that the Russian defenders in that area are not going to be having an easy time defending. We also saw confirmed proof today from the Belarusian volunteers that Klishkivka has been taken as they were walking through the middle of the village today and showed it on film. This is all that's left of the village of Klishkivka. Dude, I like that one Ukrainian up there just a second ago. They're all walking. He just goes, ah! And then he just keeps walking. It's like, what was that?
Stepped on a wee little nail just to absorb the pain and keep going.
No, it's just the stress got to him in that one moment and it boiled over. He went, ah! And then he just went back to normal. I do that sometimes too, to be honest. But we're getting
I feel like if you're in a war zone long enough, you might end up like somebody like, you know, with Tourette's or something. They start yelling cuss words out of the blue. Damn! And then you keep walking like it's totally normal.
Man, Tourette's do be wild, though. I gotta be honest.
Man, that cussing version of Tourette's, that stuff like can get people in some bad situations. Like I really feel bad for folks that have that version of it.
Man, I feel terrible for anyone with Tourette's, man, because they can never control what they're saying. It could be anything. But anyways, we were able to confirm today in this video that Klishkivka is well under Ukrainian control as they were moving through the middle road of the village. I'll be taking you all there to show it. And let me get to Klishkivka. Here we go. They were walking through this middle road right here. Because we know, I mean, it's not like it's an operational security thing. They showed it in the clip. They were walking through this very street in the middle of the village. There was no firefighting or gunfire going on anywhere. We also didn't see that they were moving in from house to house on the side of the street trying to take cover. They clearly showed that they, in fact, had control of the entire village in that clip. Also, we can see some of the Russian trench works, apparently, that were built up earlier on in the war right here on Google Maps. I had never noticed that until right now, and I was like, that is actually wild. We can also see all of the tracks that Russian vehicles took, and probably also Ukrainian vehicles as well, during all of the fighting, which is absolutely insane to think that you can actually see some of the war on satellite picture pretty much live as it is right now. But with that, we're moving on from that little clip in Klishkivka, and now we're going to be moving on down into Andriivka, where we heard today that the Ukrainian commander gave the Russian forces 10 minutes to surrender before they went on into the village completely. We have said that the Ukrainians took Andriivka for a while, and the Russians haven't been in Klishkivka at all. They've been on the other side of the railroad berm, but the Ukrainians have never really been able to move in completely and exert absolute control over it, but they were able to push the Russians out a while ago. Today, they demanded that the Russian forces in the area of Andriivka were to surrender, and here's that clip. The 2nd Assault Battalion of the 3rd Separate Assault Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, my call sign Sleep, has been addressing you for a day. For a day, our guys have occupied the village of Andriivka. All your personnel either fled from the battlefield or was destroyed. Also, 2 of your battalion commanders were killed, namely Medvedev and Shaitan. We know that the group of avant-garde is now in 2 houses, and we offer you to surrender for one simple reason. We need an exchange fund. If you do not make such a wish, we will destroy you all. We have more than enough desire, skill, and everything else for this. If you surrender, I, as an officer, promise that you will be left alive, fed, drunk, will not mock you, and soon you will get into the exchange fund. We give you 10 minutes to think. I have everything. I hope for your understanding. And that's the end of that clip, and apparently the Russians didn't surrender, and the Ukrainians ended up wiping them out and then taking the village of Andriivka. There are now Ukrainian forces inside of the village, and we also got some pictures showing what is left of the village that they took over today. These pictures were actually from September 6th, about a week ago, but this is what the village of Andriivka looks like now. It is, of course, completely destroyed. Very few of the buildings are left standing, if any at all. But we can see now that the Ukrainians will be controlling the area directly across the railroad berm, where the Russians have been funneling a large amount of their forces up north and on into Klishkivka, which is about a mile away to the left of the picture. It is, of course, great to know that Ukrainian forces continue to valiantly fight in this area and actually exert control and influence over more villages, meaning that the Russians are being pushed back little by little, hour by hour, mile by mile. Moving on from the area of Bakhmut and down the line, we also got very little news from the southeastern front today, showing that a Russian vehicle was destroyed in Staromanivka. Let me make sure I got that right. Staromanivka, there we go. And we can see that this is a 777 Pegasus. And it looks like they're about a Pegasus Russian vehicle with this thing. Well, you see it coming down the road, fast as hell, kicking up dirt everywhere. And oh great heavens.
Oh my.
Oh heavens. Oh my lord, it turned into a fireball. That didn't end well for them. But with that, we're going to be moving on to our next clip where we also got to see a Russian tank being destroyed in this area as well. And we got to see it burning on in the field.
Excuse me, good sir. Could I have one Russian burning tank, please, on order?
Could I have one Russian tank burned, please? Well done. Yes. Yes, you can.
I wanted it marinating in, I wanted marinating in fire. Let's put it that way.
Oh. Yes, sir, right away. And then they start marinating.
Thank you.
Man,
Order up.
Man, they listen to you. They listen to you, see?
Man, I love it. They kill the bobcats and they blow up tanks. I love it.
Man, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, man. But with that, we're going to be moving on from that clip. That's all the news we got today from Staromayorsk and the village chain area. Beyond that, we haven't been hearing a lot about frontline advances in this area, and it does appear that the Ukrainians may be reorganizing, or they may have halted the offensive for a short while. Moving on from that and into the area of Robotny, we only got one clip today, showing some Ukrainian women soldiers fighting in the field behind a Bradley. We usually actually hold back from saying that they are female soldiers, because we have a lot of, well, not a lot, we have some people who are a bit uncouth whenever they hear that there are women soldiers. So we usually try and hide that fact so that way we don't have very weird and vulgar things being said in the chat. But nevertheless, I wanted to give these women soldiers recognition because they are women after all and fighting for the nation of Ukraine as well. And so with that, here's the clip.
Боком за мене, покажи ручку. Сюди?
Я просто, вона за
Ні.
Просто пройди вперед, він прикаже, включай.
Ooh, yikes.
They had a Daniel. Did you see that?
They did?
They had a Daniel defense rifle. It looked like the M4A1 on the ground.
Where was that?
Scroll forward a little bit.
Let's see. This one?
Yep, that looks like a Daniel defense of some sort.
This one right here?
Another one on the ground.
The one on the ground? I'm not seeing one on the ground. Are you sure you're seeing the same?
It was right there.
Right here?
It's right there on the ground. Yeah.
Oh, that's on the wall.
Yeah,
because the camera's
looking on the ground.
Yeah, the camera's
on the wall then.
Yeah,
There you go.
that's why I wasn't recognized. I was like on the ground. I was like, there's nothing over here on the ground. But anyways, pretty neat to see. Pretty great to see women soldiers in the field fighting for Ukraine as well, because every single citizen of Ukraine is, of course, doing their part to defend the nation. Moving on out of the area of Robotny into the area of Pokrovsk, we also got to see a grad launcher, a Russian grad launcher, meeting its end. We're going to be muting that. There's the grad. You can see them stabilizing the camera to get a better view of its ultimate demise here in a minute. And actually, sorry everyone, as soon as we saw that, it's a duplicate. So I'm going to be removing this from the map. Sorry, everyone. It's an old one, and it got added in today's news on accident. Moving on from that area and down towards the area of Kherson, we have even more news to cover. Not a lot of frontline advances, but a lot of action. And starting off with our first clip, we got to see that Russian forces were destroyed by some drone attacks a little bit south of Novikhovka. And we're going to be muting that. And we can see the Russian artillery piece going nuclear. We can also see the UAZ rolling around. We're about to see that it's about to be no AZ. It's going to be dead AZ. And we can see it being hit right there and blown away. Of course, beautiful to see. We can see it getting hit a second time. It's a double tap. We now see another Russian. That's actually a Russian fuel truck, right? That's juicy. I bet you that burned quite nicely. We can see another Russian vehicle being hit right here. It appears to be another UAZ. We see a Russian very confused by that. Now he's running away. And now we can see them attacking a tank. Look, there's Russians on the engine bay, and now they're no longer around.
Sunburn. Wear your sunscreen.
And a Russian recovery vehicle destroyed.
I think he got sunburned.
I think he got burned, just in general. You know, call him well done. Call him congratulations, because he was cooked more than well done. But we see another Russian tank getting hit. Well, you see another one getting hit again. Look, it's even another one. DJ Khaled is having an absolute fit right now with me saying this. The copyright attorneys are on the way. But we can see...
another one.
Another one, and another one. We the best!
Bombs exploding, real life.
Real trap shit. Walk with your boys.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Oh, we got an ATV.
Oh, he's booking it.
Man, he going. He knows what's up. He knows what's good. Oh. Oh, no.
Oh.
Oh, he's going out of control. Oh, and he came to a stop. It looks like he's going out of control for a minute. And now we can see another Russian vehicle being destroyed right there at the end. Wonderful to see. Moving on from that and on to our next clip, we also got to see somewhere around Radinsk that another Mista-S artillery piece was destroyed by Ukrainian forces today. We're going to be muting that, but we can see the Mista-S SPG sticking out of the tree line right there and now backing up into it to try and hide in the shadows, but it won't be able to hide for long. The Ukrainians have already spotted it, and a drone or an artillery strike is on its way. It's mostly the artillery. It was artillery. We can see the shell in slow motion. We see another explosion on the tree line right there. And it appears that they've set fire to the fields, and the Mista-S is gone. Brilliant to see. And wonderful to know they were able to knock out another one of Russia's premier SPGs. With that, we can also see that a Russian apparently left his gear abandoned on a pier near the Dnipro River for some unexplained reason. We don't really know why, and the video clip is not loading either, so we're actually going to be moving on from that one and on into the middle of the Dnipro Delta, where we got to see that the Ukrainians are conducting another boat raid. We can see all the boats on their way, and is that nice or what?
Man, those boats are like solid as a rock. They're taking those waves, like absorbing them and not even reacting to it. I guess the boats are so weighed down. That's probably why.
That's probably why. When you see them just trucking on along like absolute legends.
Dang, my gut says speed up. They're going slow.
Man, but they got to go slow to have the cool factor. But with that, that's the end of that clip. Of course, wonderful to see. And it's now time for us to move on up to Kyiv to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 569 of the news. And so, without further ado, here is the speech.
That's all Rodney Dangerfield. You see him.
Oh, man, I'm telling you.
Dude, I've been watching him a little bit again. He's got some great jokes, man. Like, he always had some really good jokes, in my opinion. But anyways,
Speech.
here's the speech.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці і українки. Провів розмову з президенткою Європейської комісії Урсулою фон дер Ляєн. Обмежувальні заходи проти нашого аграрного сектору з боку Євросоюзу скасовані. Зараз важливо, щоб європейська єдність працювала на двосторонньому рівні з сусідами, щоб сусіди у час війни Україну підтримали. Європа виграє завжди, коли договори працюють, а обіцянки виконуються. Ну а якщо рішення сусідів будуть не сусідськими, Україна буде цивілізовано відповідати. Провів і тривалу нараду з урядовцями, офісом щодо подальшої нашої тактики захисту договорів і вільної торгівлі в ЄС. Допомагаючи один одному та захищаючи нашу спільну свободу в Європі, зокрема економічну свободу, ми зміцнюємо усіх в Європі. І особливо це важливо зараз, в умовах такої геноцидної агресії, яку розв'язала Росія. Провів сьогодні нове засідання Ставки. Перше і головне – фронт. Главком Залужний, командувачі, доповіді щодо ситуації на основних напрямках. Керівник ГУР Буданов, окрема доповідь, міністр стратегпрому Камишин, змістовно про виробництво зброї і снарядів в Україні. Кожного тижня фіксуємо прогрес держави у власному оборонному виробництві. Є вагомий і дуже потрібний Україні результат на Бахмутському напрямку. Наші воїни звільнили Андріївку, 3-я штурмова, всі задіяні сили, штаб, командувач, генерал Сирський, хлопці, всім вам дякую. Наші активні дії тривають і в районах Кліщівки, Курдюмівки, 36-та окрема бригада морпіхів, дуже потужна діє в районі Опитного та Водяного. Дякую вам, хлопці. Район Вербового, наші незламні воїни, дякую. Район Новопрокопівки, молодці. Пишаюся всіма воїнами, які наближають нашу перемогу. Сьогодні, напередодні Дня рятівника, привітав колектив ДСНС України та подякував за сміливу та самовіддану роботу. Взяв участь в нагородженні лауреатів всеукраїнської акції «Герой, рятувальник року». І ця подія значно більше, ніж один з офіційних заходів. Наша вдячність для працівників та працівниць ДСНС, кожна державна та відомча відзнака для рятувальників – це відображення того, що життя людей захищаються. Провів зустріч з Карімом Ханом, прокурором Міжнародного кримінального суду. Говорили про наближення справедливості для України, для всіх людей, які постраждали від російських злочинів війни. Відповідальність має бути чіткою, конкретною, цілком справедливою. Саме такою, як виданий Міжнародним кримінальним судом ордер на арешт Путіна. Те, чого російський диктатор реально злякався. І тепер він старається не виїжджати за межі Росії, бо сила права вона є і вагома, і світ має всі можливості, щоб право таки подолало агресію бандитської сили. Готуємо до важливих міжнародних заходів, які заплановані на другу половину вересня. Сьогодні провів кілька тривалих нарад щодо цього. Робимо все, щоб для України були вагомі результати і в нових оборонних пакетах від партнерів, і в рішеннях міжнародних інституцій. Працюємо і для посилення інституцій України, для спроможності нашої держави остаточно знищити олігархічно-корупційні впливи. Впливи, якими, зокрема, Росія так довго користувалася, щоб послаблювати Україну, щоб постійно під'їдати суверенітет нашої держави. Сьогодні провів широку та змістовну нараду з представниками правоохоронних і антикорупційних органів, Верховна Рада України, уряд, офіс. Готуємо концептуальні кроки, які дадуть Україні, усьому нашому суспільству більше справедливості, а демократії в нашій державі гарантовану стійкість. Ще одне. Сьогодні українська єврейська громада разом з усіма іудеями світу святкує Рош га-Шана. Вітаю усіх, хто святкує, та бажаю, щоб наступний рік став мирним. Нарешті мирним для всієї України, для усіх наших людей. Україна заслуговує на мир, бо робить усе для перемоги. Я дякую кожному і кожній, хто б'ється за свободу та незалежність. Я дякую всім, хто допомагає. Слава Україні!
And
Hiram Slava.
And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 569 of the war. But that only means that the halftime show is over. We're moving on into the second part of this stream, the part where we get to talk to all of y'all for the rest of the night. Of course, we have, from what I understand, last time we heard, a limited number of live chat questions to answer. And based off of the amount of super chats that we have received tonight, we probably will be able to get to a pretty decent amount of live chats before we round out the stream tonight. And so if you would like, make sure to @Enforcer Matt and ask him a question, because we will probably be able to get to a lot of questions from the live chat tonight. I would assume at least 10, maybe more than that. But with that, we are now going to be moving on into that second part. And so take it away, Matthew.
And also, by the way, I do have quite a bit of live chat questions right now, so I think we might have enough, but if you want to send in a couple, I might be able to add a few. But moving on to our polls, our first one says, if Kadyrov dies, who do you think will take his place as leader of Chechnya? It looks like 36% said it will be likely his sons, 28% said it will be someone worse, another 28% said unsure, and 8% said it will be someone more mild. And I would have to believe that's probably most likely going to be his sons, because that seems to be the way things work in that country. But that's just pure speculation, because it could be anyone. And I think his sons are basically pawns of Putin at this point, because I think one of Kadyrov's sons is now in charge of the company that used to be known as Danone, which is the French food manufacturer inside of Russia. I'm not sure if it's called that anymore. It might be called something different, kind of like they changed the name from McDonald's to Tasty something. So I don't know. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say it probably would be Kadyrov's sons if I had to take a guess. There is a right-hand man that is with Kadyrov right now that I also think would be an equal contender, but if it came down to it, I feel like it would probably be his sons. We don't, of course, like Matthew said, know exactly how the political structure works in Chechnya, but I would assume that that would be the case. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to... I don't go to anyone, actually. What was I saying? I saw a super chat come in, and I started automatically going through the spill. But the second poll says, which one of these guys is Putin most likely to eliminate next? 45% said Russian General Surovikin, 27% said Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, 18% said Russian General Shoigu, and 10% said Vladimir Putin himself. He's next. And I would have to agree with the 45%. I think Surovikin is next up on the list. He's currently in Algiers, and there's really no real explanation for why he's there. And he had to take a plane down there, and he's taking a plane back. And Prigozhin took a plane somewhere. Yeah, and that plane didn't make it. So I'm not sure if he has much longer left. The next one in line would be Lukashenko, if that's what they're now calling him. Like I said last night, Lukashenko seems to be his new name. He would be next after Surovikin. But right now, they've officially taken out, obviously, Prigozhin. He is down and out. Kadyrov is currently in the progress of being down and out. Gherkin is as well. He's in prison. And after that, we're looking at Lukashenko and Surovikin. Shoigu, I don't think they're going to take him out. And Vladimir Putin himself, that's a stretch. But Enforcer, what say you?
I actually feel like Lukashenko would be one of the people to survive the longest, considering he's not actually in Russia and he's the leader of another country. In my opinion, I think Shoigu and Surovikin may be kind of on equal footing to be next in line for the purge, but still, Shoigu holds a lot more favor than Surovikin. That's why Shoigu still holds his office, and Surovikin has been moved on into Algeria. So, going off of that, I would actually have to say I think it will be Surovikin next, because he does have to fly on a plane back to Russia, and that is like running the gauntlet right there. You could die, or you could not. And so with that, I hope that does address that poll fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and that was our last poll for now, so we're moving on back to our Super Chat questions. And up first, we have a $25 donation from Wubba. And thank you very much, Wubba, for that support. Excuse me. And Wubba said, sorry, I've been slacking on vacation, fly fishing.
Hey, and I thank you so much for the support, Wubba. And it's really cool to hear that you've been fly fishing. Of course, no problem whatsoever. We are always happy to hear that people are taking a break every once in a while from the war and having a little bit of fun. But we always love to know that people also come back as well and continue to watch what's happening in the war with us. So I hope you had fun fly fishing. And also, Matthew, I wonder how that is to try and fish for flies. Like, that's got to be pretty tough, you know, like trying to catch a fruit fly with a fishing hook. That's got to be like one of the toughest kinds of sports that you can get into, at least in terms of the skill needed. But nevertheless, Wubba, I do thank you so much.
Yeah, if you wanted to catch some flies, you just simply go get a drunk Russian soldier, and you have that done pretty quick.
Or you could be Mercado Media.
Oh yeah, you could be him
Just
too.
open up your mouth. You can just suck him in. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Well, anyways, thank you so much once again for the support, Wubba, and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Snow White, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Snow White, for that support. They said, gracias por todo. I don't know what that means. Hopefully it's good. Please pick a good live chat question and have a great night.
And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you so much for saying, please, and then something else. Let me see what the other part was. Let's see here. Let me go find it. Let's see. I don't know what por todo means, to be honest with you. I know a little bit of Spanish. I was able to speak it for a while very poorly. But unfortunately, I don't know what that word is. But we will make sure to pick a live chat. And I thank you so much once again for supporting us tonight, Snow White, and helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope you have a great night, too. And I hope this live chat is a good service to your support. And so with that, what do we got for a live chat, Matthew?
And the live chat question goes to Barry Woodward, who says, what do you think the plan of action will be once Ukraine begins flying the F-16s?
The plan of action will most likely be a large amount of seed missions. They'll most likely take the AGM-88 harms that they've been receiving from the United States for a year at this point, and they'll probably start mounting them onto the F-16s because the F-16s are actually equipped to properly use the AGM-88 harms. So based off of that, I have a feeling that the F-16's first mode of operation will be seed missions. They'll be going after radar installations, destroying S-400s, Bukes, Tors, anything that they can find, they will destroy them. And then once they do that, then the F-16s will go into really fulfilling every kind of mission that they possibly can. Air to ground, air to air, and also seed missions as well, just continuations of seed missions. So I have a feeling that that's most likely what these aircraft will end up being used for in the first part of their service life in Ukraine. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Snow White, and I hope we were able to address that live chat fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running.
All right, and the next one goes to Marion Deemer, who puts in a $20 donation and says, my daily food donation. And thank you for feeding the enforcers. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the food support. We do enjoy some food, and your support is helping us continue to eat. We actually had Papa John's the other day. It was actually pretty good. It was better than I remember Papa John's being last time, so I was pretty happy with that.
Alpa.
And if I had to say what I ate today, I actually ate a hamburger. It was a double patty cheeseburger with a small side of fries from a little restaurant chain here in Birmingham called Hamburger Heaven. And they are incredibly good hamburgers. If y'all ever come here, you'll have to try them. They're like the best in the city. The best, Jerry, the best. But still, thank you so much for the food fund because you're helping us to be able to eat pretty good. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Aaron Shu, who puts in a $20 donation. Thank you very much, Aaron, as well, for the support. And yes, another nice guy said Palpa. He did say that. And Aaron said North Korea could easily be outdone by either the crop duster from Independence Day or Florida Man. And oink, oink, moo, moo, sorry, grain, take over the chat. And Aaron, what you doing? That's Aaron. Duncan's role.
Aaron, you're going to get sued. You're going to get sued by Oregon Duncan VR for copyright infringement. I'm just kidding, but thank you so much once again for the support. And to address that, I think North Korea could really be beat by anyone in a conventional war. Not talking about the nukes, just talking about the conventional war side of things. You can easily get beat. Well, the North Koreans can easily get beat by really anyone out there. And their one nuclear submarine and their cheap little modern-looking tanks aren't going to fix that problem. They only have 9 of those modern tanks. They only have one one nuclear submarine. That's not going to help them out much at all. So I would say, yes, I would agree with you. The Florida Man could end up beating North Korea probably on his own. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for supporting this channel and helping us to keep this thing running, helping us to keep the lights on, helping us to keep everything going, because folks like you make it possible. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
And our next super chat goes to SYI Tiger 907, who puts in a $20 donation. And this is our viewer from Unalakleet, Alaska.
Hey!
It was a pretty tough day, but I got quite a bit done, and hope y'all are having a good night, and Unakleet sucks. LOL, I miss home.
Dang, man, that's like, I'm always saying to SYI Tiger, man, I'm like, dude, it's so cool to be in the frontier. He's like, man, it sucks. And he's right. It probably does suck up there in the frontier. I mean, hell, Alaska and Wyoming have the highest depression and suicide rates in the United States, largely because people are so isolated in those parts of the world. So I hope you're doing well, SYI Tiger. I hope you're not having a tough time of it. It sounds like you're not really liking it up there. Maybe you'll be able to go home to Anchorage soon. But nevertheless, I hope you've had a good day today. I hope this stream is kind of a good way to unwind and just enjoy the rest of the day that you have. But thank you so much once again for the support, SYI Tiger, and keeping the lights on in the little town of Unalakleet, Alaska. I think it's so cool that people who watch this show live in literally the corners of the globe. Like the viewer last night who said they lived in that little village in Iceland that was almost to as far north as you could get. I think that's just crazy to know that folks are watching from truly every corner of the globe. And it means a lot to me that folks like you who are having a tough time out there. I mean, it's a brutal lifestyle to live out here in the middle of Alaska, are watching this show right now and enjoying it and winding down to it. And I got to thank you so much for that. And I got to thank you so much for helping this channel to keep on running. And don't you worry, we're all going to hold out hope that you'll be able to get back to Anchorage. And so with that, and thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you, SYI Tiger, for helping this channel to keep rolling. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a 20 from Steve T. And thank you very much, Steve, for that support. He says, has Russia proven to North Korea and other nations that nuclear weapons are the best and only deterrent to have, and NATO is afraid of Russia and doing so little because of that nuclear option?
Let's see. I think so. I think, well, largely that's been known since the beginning of the Cold War, is that nuclear deterrence is the best kind of weapon that you can have in the world. And that's also why there's so many non-nuclear proliferation treaties. That's also why there was a huge stink when the North Koreans were developing those nuclear weapons, because they were violating those non-proliferation treaties. Yes, it is something that the Russians have proven. It's not just the Russians that have proven it. It's also the United States that's actually proven it in a way that nuclear weapons are the best way to stop yourself from having other larger nations mess with you. And for the North Koreans, that was really the only way they could see themselves going forward in the world. And you can also see that their nuclear weapons program started to develop once the United States started to open up trade with the Chinese in a large amount around 2001, when China was brought into the World Trade Organization. The North Koreans must have been, we don't know their exact line of thinking because we'll never really know, but they must have been thinking at that moment that the Chinese may abandon them, because the only reason up until that point historically that we hadn't just curb stomped the North Koreans is that either the Soviet Union was backing them or the People's Republic of China, Communist China, was backing them up with a defensive pact. And I'm guessing that after the collapse of the Soviet Union, that kind of worried North Korea, because then there was only China left. And then once China joined the World Trade Organization, started trading with the United States to a massive degree, it looked like probably to North Korea that they were about to be completely on their own, and without a larger country backing them up with a defensive pact, they needed a way to try and defend themselves in their minds. And so going off of that, I guess that's what spurred their nuclear weapons program, is they were thinking, obviously, I mean, maybe they think they're an actual major power player, like some kind of a superpower, but obviously they're not a superpower, and to protect themselves from being invaded over the stupid crap that they do on a daily basis, they have to have a nuclear weapon to stop us from just steamrolling them the next time they run their mouths. So then their nuclear program took off, and then now they have nuclear weapons. So I would agree with you. Yes, I think the Russians actually were kind of like a sign to a country like North Korea that having nuclear weapons as a deterrence is probably the best thing to make sure that they will be able to survive without the United States or some other country just steamrolling them. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And also, Charles Martel found a hamburger heaven in Birmingham. I was like, dang, okay. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to SYI Tiger 907 yet again, who puts in a $20 donation and says, do you think Russia would try to invade Alaska? I'd have fun messing up some Russians with my 30-06.
Man, he gonna mess them up. And also, I love to hear that you have a 30-06. I too actually have a 30-06. It's a 1903 Springfield that I got way long ago. I think it was like 2019 I got that thing. I've owned it for an incredibly long time. It's honestly one of my prized guns. I really love it. It's a beautiful gun. It shoots well. 30-06 is a wonderful cartridge as well, and it's just a great rifle. Now, to answer your question, the Russians will never invade Alaska. It's just too much open frontier. There's no real roads in most parts of Alaska where they could, run logistics or supply their army from. And also, the Russian Navy in this area is so weak and based out of Vladivostok, which is so far away, they would never be able to have a steady supply chain making its way to Alaska for their armed forces to keep on working there. So Alaska is safe entirely. There would never be a chance that Alaska was invaded unless if they were going for somewhere closer down to the area of, say, Anchorage, although that's still a bit of a stretch, or even the Canadian West Coast, which is an incredible stretch because the supply line at that point is thousands of miles long and there's not enough ships to keep it going. So really, there is no chance in hell that the Russians would ever invade. But if they did, it's good to know that the Alaskans, like yourself, SYI, do have an occasional 30-06 hither and thither to be able to take care of the occasional Russian that goes, "Suka, blad!" But so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one is going to go to SY Tiger 907 yet again, who puts in another $20 donation. Thank you very much, SY Tiger. I said, y'all are the highlight and my twisted tea and pizza rolls. Oh, I do love some pizza rolls. Huh? I'm not knowing about the twisted tea. Is that alcoholic?
It's alcoholic. Yes, it is. So sadly, we don't drink alcohol. I think that's something that everyone knows at this point because the Jameson break thing was a joke for a bit. But we don't drink alcohol, don't smoke. And don't do drugs. And some people may find that to be a boring lifestyle. I find that to be a pretty good lifestyle because it makes sure that I can focus on productivity instead of just wasting time, really. That's kind of how I view all of that. It's just kind of time wasters. But moving on from that, and also I'm not like deriding anyone who does drink. Like if you drink, as long as to me, folks aren't getting plastered and just like completely inebriated, it's totally fine. It's just that for some reason, drinking isn't for me. I don't think it'd ever be for me. But still.
Man, some folks love to fill their snoot full. Like, they just go out every night, snoot full, all the time.
Man, Man, I know what you're talking about, man, because... actually it's a bit of a joke. Apparently, the world we're in now, apparently alcoholism is a big deal. I actually didn't know that, but we were told that going into law school that alcoholism is a big deal, and apparently it is because some of our classmates, none of them are probably watching, the ones that do this, but some of our classmates do end up getting a little schnockered a good bit, like almost every day. And you wouldn't believe this, Mandy. Did you go to the State of the Union thing for the school? Like, because
no,
I actually heard about that today, and apparently the number one priority for most students in the law school that sent in an email about that was about drinking. So almost the entire thing was about what is possible and not possible to do drinking wise.
I'm just saying that if law school causes someone to start drinking, you might want to go find a new career because law school isn't that stressful. It's time consuming, but it's not that bad. I think the real practice of law is a lot more stressful, and that's not a good sign.
And I would have to agree with that for the most part. And I've got to be honest, like since I'm a person who doesn't drink alcohol or smoke or do drugs or anything, it's something weird to me to see people drink or anything, and I'll explain why here really quickly. When I've noticed that when people start drinking, because you grow up with everyone around you at school, and then of course everyone starts drinking underage. That's something that happens. It starts around 16 years old, and then they just drink from there onwards. You notice that their personality largely starts to revolve around alcohol consumption. Like they have to consume alcohol to actually have a personality, and they don't really mold one for themselves that's like unique. It largely relies entirely on being a little buzzed to have a personality, and I find that kind of weird. And that's also something that's kind of scared me away because it's like, man, if I started to drink, would I end up being like that, where I have to drink to be able to have some kind of an entertaining personality? So that's something that I've kind of noticed. It's the same with drugs. You notice that people are completely like soulless once they stop doing drugs, and that's largely because of all the dopamine receptor stuff. Like if you do drugs or just drink a great deal, you jack up your dopamine receptors so badly that you don't really derive pleasure from really anything anymore. You practically go through life feeling nothing. So it's like I wouldn't want to do that because I want to feel the like joys of basic things. But anyways, with that, I was just told we have a great deal of super chats left, and he is entirely right. Matthew is correct on that. But I hope I kind of addressed that further. But nevertheless, a little twisted tea here and there never hurt anyone. And also, I love to hear that you're eating pizza rolls, SYI Tiger, because pizza rolls are so freaking good, especially if they're oven baked. Like, microwave is okay, oven baked, you can't beat it. So I hope you're having fun. I hope you're enjoying that. It does sound pretty good. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Phil the Sky, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Phil, once again for that support. He says, here's for the lunch at school fund. And yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
He says, what is your favorite spot near campus for food? Slava Ukraine, viva la LSA. And she said, gracias por todo, or thank you for everything, and LOL. Pure gold, thanks, LOL. And download Putin. And yes, download Putin, I gotta say, I'm telling you. I actually don't eat lunch at school anymore. I've gotten to the point where I do my work for the school, or at least a good portion of it, during my break between classes. So I've actually skipped that, and I was bringing like a granola bar or something and just cope with that. And also, it's very expensive. Like, I don't want to say exactly what places there are to eat at the school so we don't dox ourselves and somebody finds out where we're at. But it's expensive, and they jack the prices up intentionally, I think. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say, yeah, we can't actually talk about that because some of y'all may be aware of what's going on Twitter, and I'd like to take the moment really quickly to encourage all of y'all, whether y'all use Twitter or not. We use it to send out information that we don't really want to talk about on stream a lot and waste our time with. But if you want, go to the link in the description below to our Twitter and go click on it. Even if you don't have a Twitter, you can see the posts and see what's been going on lately in between us and another person, and y'all will kind of see why we have an apprehension about really giving an idea of where we go to law school. Because right now, there's a psycho idiot out there that actually wants to try and have us disbarred before we're even in the bar to become an attorney, and also have us kicked out of our law school, and also threaten to somehow try and report our dad to the bar, who is pretty much our legal counsel in the current lawsuit we're in. Also wants to possibly try and report him to the bar where he'll lose his job. So practically he's going around and trying to blackmail everyone at this point. And I've got to be honest with y'all, you know, I don't really like to put out strong-worded statements like this, but someone who's going to do that kind of low-handed stuff, like we do it the proper way. You know, if we have a problem, we sent the guy a cease and desist letter to ask him to stop his crap, and then he wants to continue on, and then you get sued for that. That's just what happens. If you get a cease and desist, you need to stop, or else. And so we do it the proper way. This guy decides he's going to lie to all of y'all, and then he's going to threaten us behind the scenes and just keep on going until the cows come home. People like that don't need to be on YouTube. These people are sick. This guy has doxed us. He's trying to threaten to destroy our lives at this point, and the guy doesn't even have an actual claim or a basis for any of this, rather than he just doesn't like us. And so at this point, I think honestly YouTube needs to step in and start dealing with this. Not saying that, you know, we're going to work towards that or anything, but we're certainly going to start moving in that direction. Oh, and by the way, while the guy keeps on saying it's a fake lawsuit, when he comes back to the United States, he is getting served on the spot, practically when he steps out of the plane. Just wanting to let him know that so he can run through the airport at 100 miles an hour again and run to his apartment, so that way the private investigator can sit out there for about a week or so while he sits inside like it's a siege or something. But anyways, with that, hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
All right. And by the way, if y'all are curious why that whole process has been held up, because the guy is very slippery, and he's apparently smart enough to evade process service, which is required to get the lawsuit really kicked off. So that's been what's holding us up the entire time. But, you know, if he truly feels he's in the right, then why wouldn't he want to show up and defend himself? And that's a pretty clear indication there that something's wrong.
This guy has evaded process servers like damn El Chapo evading the federal police in Mexico. We have had, I believe, 2 process service attempts, if I'm correct, Matthew, conducted, and both of them tried.
He's actually refused service, because I've directly asked him would he accept service, and he refused it.
Well, hell, we're still just trying to get a process server to give him the damn lawsuit, and he hides. Like, he actually is hiding every single time this person comes around. When he came back from Ukraine the last time, there was a process server waiting. The guy ran through the airport so freaking quickly. Like, he literally ran out and didn't even grab his luggage. He couldn't be served. And, you know, and here's my thing. You know, people are going, oh, that's wrong. Well, hell, if we're wrong, then they'll say that there was no merit to our lawsuit, and he'll be thrown out. Simple as that. If there's merit, though, he's in some pretty serious trouble. That's the way the legal system works. So with that, Hope that does address that fairly well. But if y'all want to know a little bit about the current events and dealings with that, just go click on the link to our Twitter and go check out his emails that he sent to us behind the scenes while he's telling all of y'all that the whole lawsuit's been dropped, which is a lie, and every other thing that he's told y'all. And go see the exact opposite being told to us over email. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And with that being said, moving on to our next super chat, we have a $100 donation from Mark, incompetent drone operator. And Mark, I hope those drone skills have improved since the last time. And thank you very much for that support. And he says, get Kadyrov a goat. Give him will to live. Oops, on second thought, preload the goat with a grenade. Oh, bliat.
And that's a suka, bled. But thank you so much for the support, Mark, and thank you for being here with us again. It's great to know that folks are coming back. Like Jesus UCSB was back last night. You're here tonight. So many people are coming back. Howell Rose, and I gotta thank you so much for that. And also sending him a goat. Yeah, man, dude, that on it. Like when you really like, it's a funny joke, but when you think about that, it's like, oh dang, man, that is messed up. Like that is, it's like a real thing. Like we've seen the Kadyrovite soldiers do that kind of stuff with goats before. It's just so bizarre, but nevertheless, moving back off of thinking it's a serious thing and getting back into it being a joke. You know, maybe we could. Well, not we. I wouldn't do that, but maybe someone could do that. The CIA. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Mark, and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you for being a longtime member of the Lee Spring Army. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right, and our next super chat is going to go to Robert Nicholson, who puts in a $20 donation as well. And sadly, excuse me, does not leave a comment, by the way. And for some reason, my cough is returning. This scares me badly. But Robert, we do appreciate it very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
And thank you so much for the support. You didn't leave a comment, but the support does help us to continue to make comments on our show and continue to allow me to listen to the noise of my voice. And it allows y'all to all do that too, hopefully. And I got to thank you so much once again for the support, because you're helping us to keep the lights on, helping this thing to keep on rolling. And if it wasn't for folks like you who help to support this channel day in and day out, the Enforcer channel wouldn't be as unique and as rich in personality as it is. Y'all allow us, through y'all support and helping to pretty much bankroll this channel, y'all help us to be as unique and special as we are. And I can't ever thank y'all enough for allowing us to have such a special opportunity to be who we are and to do what we want. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. We are on to the next one.
Excuse me. All right, and our next one goes to Sterner Vikinger, who puts in a $15 donation, and thank you very much as well. He said, the only thing I'm afraid of about North Korea is an attack like on Pearl Harbor when we're least expecting it, and these people are backstabbers and they have no honor.
And they are backstabbers, and they certainly have no honor at all. But the North Koreans wouldn't be able to do something like that to us, because the only thing they have that can reach the United States is their ICBMs. Beyond that, they're very lacking in abilities, especially in conventional abilities. So we have nothing to fear, at least as far as United States territory goes. They probably wouldn't be able to attack that unless it was with a nuke. And beyond that, we would probably be able to react fairly well. The DMZ is heavily militarized, so if they tried anything there, the response would be largely immediate at that point. So it wouldn't be like a Pearl Harbor situation. But with that, thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. But I got to completely agree with you. The North Koreans are shifty people. Like as well, I don't mean that as like an across the board thing, because a lot of the North Koreans who defect are incredibly nice people with well intentions. But the North Korean government and the way they operate, and the people who live under their rule, they seem to be pretty adamant on keeping things pretty rough. But with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat is going to go to Plant Lady, who puts in a $10 donation as well. And Plant Lady says, in support of my favorite channel, and so with that, take a question from the chat.
Hey, they already know what they're going to say. But still, thank you so much for the support, and thank you for saying that we're your favorite channel. It blows me away so much to know that people love this channel and it's their favorite channel, because I always, like, in my head, like, believe it or not, I always think that we're probably most of y'all's second or third favorite channel. Like, there's probably another channel out there that's more interesting and y'all like more than us, and I'm totally fine with that, because everyone has so many channels to pick from on YouTube these days, and there are so many that do such an amazing job, you know, and a lot of the big ones as well. Like, you know, this is one thing that really blew us away. Apparently, Real Engineering, if y'all have heard of that YouTube channel before, it's a great YouTube channel. They make amazing videos, and I've watched a lot of them. Matthew's watched a lot of them too. They actually subscribed to us about 2 weeks ago, and apparently they also watched the channel, and that blew me away that they even found us worthwhile to subscribe to, because I was like, man, these guys are out here making like actual documentaries about stuff. They are amazing videos, and I can't recommend their channel enough. He has like 4 million subs. It's not like this plug is going to change his career or anything. Hell, a plug from him would change our career a lot more than our plug would his, but yeah, still, his videos are incredible. I can't recommend them enough. He's made a video on the Ocean Gate submersible, which was a really good one. It was so detailed and well put together. He made one on the Thunder Screech, which is one hell of a story. I mean, his videos are absolutely great. Now, if y'all wanted to, I would watch it, but it still blows me away that out of all of these amazing channels like Real Engineering, some of y'all say that this one is your favorite, and it just flatters us outright, because there are just so many out there that could be your #1 favorite, and yet we are. And so thank you so much for the support, and thank you so much for the kind words, and I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one is going to go to SYI Tiger 907, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, SYI, once again. And it said, do y'all ride motorcycles? And I can't wait to ride again next year. And I crashed this summer, and over winter, I'm going to start repairs on my YZF R6. And I'm sorry to hear about that crash, because I actually am a motorcycle rider, at least used to be. I had to sell it because it was a little too dangerous, especially where we live. The traffic's horrific. And I actually used to ride a Yamaha myself. I used to ride an FC10, which is a pretty powerful. I think it had like 200 horsepower or something like that. It was a fast bike, and very crazy for somebody my age to be riding on, but it was super fun though. Back when we used to live in the more rural area of Alabama. But the R6, I've also ridden on one of those as well. That's a fun bike as well. A really high like RPM limit on that bike. Very fun. And also I started off on a Honda 500, which was a kind of underpowered bike, but it was fun too. That was my beginner bike. But yeah, it's cool to hear you ride motorcycles. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I thank you so much for the support, SYI Tiger. To give you all a little bit of a background story, I actually want to ride motorcycles, but back in the day when Matthew was getting into them, our dad actually went and bought 2 starter motorcycles for both of us. They were Honda CBR 500s, and I got on it. And to let y'all know something that y'all may or may not notice, I actually got in a bike wreck when I was in kindergarten. I think I was 6 years old at the time, and I got into a terrible bike wreck that knocked out 4 of my teeth. I ended up actually getting my mouth ripped open like the Joker a little bit, and it ended up getting sewn back. And you can't actually see that, thank God, because that would be freaky if you could. But there's like flaps of skin inside my mouth where they had like stitched the pieces back together and everything. But that was a very traumatic experience for me, as one might be able to tell. It'll freak you out if you get on anything like a bike or a motorcycle. So I didn't think about it until I got on that motorcycle, and then I freaked out and I just got off. I didn't freak out and like have an anxiety attack. I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. And I just got off and didn't do it again. And so since then, it's kind of been an on and off thing with the motorcycle idea. But one cool motorcycle that I've seen that it just piques my interest so much are these Janus motorcycles. They're made in a motor workshop in Goshen, Indiana. And they're like a classic 1930s, 1940s style motorcycle. I honestly think it looks a lot like a Harley-Davidson WLA from World War II, a little bit. But these things are just so cool. They don't really have a lot of power. I think the top speed of this thing is 90 miles an hour. It has a 450cc engine. Matthew thinks that that's woefully underpowered. I honestly think it's cool. I think it's like a little scooter thing, kind of like just a joyriding thing, and it also looks beautiful as well. It's just so cool looking. And I've wanted to get into motorcycle riding recently, but the thing is that I want to make sure, because when y'all support the channel, we realize that y'all put a lot of time and effort into working to be able to have that money to support us, and so I feel a responsibility to largely be responsible with how we spend, y'all's support. It mostly goes towards bills, law school, utilitarian things. Not really a lot of enjoyment comes, out of the sport, and largely we save everything else that's left over. So the idea of putting down $14,500 on a motorcycle like this to ride it around is something that I largely reel against, because I'm like, that feels like it would be an irresponsible way to spend y'all's support that y'all have given to us. I feel like it would be much better to just put it into a bank and save it for a rainy day. Like, what if I have a medical emergency? What do my kidneys give out because I'm drinking so much coffee. It might be better to have some money in the bank for something like that than to get a motorcycle. It's still super cool, though. I mean, I love this thing. It's beautiful. And they come in so many different colors. They're all custom made. And it's
Man,
just...
I don't want it if it doesn't shoot flames out of the back. The motorcycle, the last one I had was the FZ10, the Yamaha with about 200 horsepower. I had the thing, I actually straight piped the bike myself, and that was an experience because I don't really have any mechanic ability whatsoever, but somehow I was able to do it. And I added a quick shifter to it. And every time I would downshift, I'd have it literally spitting flames out of the exhaust and like doing the burbles and everything. It was super loud, but super cool. And also, since it was in the backwoods of Alabama, it didn't matter, so nobody cared. But here where we live now in Birmingham, I think that'd be a little bit different. So couldn't do that here. But if you could make this thing shoot flames, I might be into it.
But you know something? I got to tell you all this because I always look around, and while I always believe in responsibly spending y'all support and making sure that it goes towards things that actually help to further ourselves as people or actually help out the channel, one thing that has really piqued my interest is not a motorcycle that I'm going to share with you because Matthew knows what I'm going towards. You know what it is, Matthew. Is a Willys Jeep. And I know that's like the weirdest thing. And I'm talking about like a Ford GMP. Ford, yeah, here we go. GPW, Ford GPW. Let me go find one. A Ford GPW from World War II. Not the ones from the 50s. You know, they're the same thing really. But these are just so cool looking. It's like a little ATV. And also what's crazy is that these things are like within the range for being somewhat rare and very collectible. They're like within the range of about a Janus motorcycle. The cheapest ones go for about $16,000 fully restored and operational. The more expensive ones go for somewhere around the high 20,000s. Never would get one, but they're still incredibly neat to think about, and it's so cool to watch people drive these things because they are an off-road monster. Like, you know, people don't think that, but these things can handle just about all kinds of off-road terrain with relative ease. And it's just such a cool vehicle with a neat little history behind it. It's like a little go-kart. Just neat all the way around. But would I get one? Probably not. Because there's a lot of maintenance that you have to put into a Willys Jeep to make sure that it's in good shape. I probably wouldn't have time to put that maintenance into it, and I'd also hate to know through that I would end up damaging a historical piece, you know, like a real Willys Jeep like that. But still, thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well, SYI Tiger, while we went through that massive rabbit hole. But I wonder if a lot of y'all can agree with me. Do y'all think that the GPW Jeeps are neat? Because I think they are. I don't know. Maybe a lot of people think they're like weird, wonky, or ugly. But I always thought it would be so cool to have one of these. But with that, hope that does address that fairly well. Thank you so much once again for the support, SYI. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Walter A. Lakota Jr., who puts in a $20 donation. And it's good to see you once again, Walter. And he says, aloha, Enforcer Matt, and LSA from OG Ellison Bosun. About the LS Minsk, it seems that the ship is a total loss. From the damage done, its bulkheads are warped and compromised, and Kilo Sub has damage to its outer hull.
And I thank you so much for the support, Walter. And that's exactly what I was thinking. Because when I saw that fire damage take out the superstructure, it was obvious. And I'm glad to know you agree with me. It was obvious that fire certainly went down inside the ship and was probably warping bulkheads under the just raw heat of the entire affair. So that both of them are total write-offs. And I got to thank you so much, Walter A. Lakota, because you're our merchant marine of the Lee Spring Army, our admiral of the Lee Spring Army. And it's good to know that you also agree both of those are certainly write-offs due to the extensive fire damage that they've received. And so with that, thank you so much once again for being here with us tonight, Walter, and thank you for supporting the channel and helping this thing to keep on rolling, because it's folks like you who have continuously supported us that have helped us to keep this thing alive. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again.
All right, and the next one goes to, wow, so smooth, 2101, who puts in a 10 and says, opiates don't kill you like that. Actually pretty benign when relatively pure, and that's why we have a millennia of medical use. That looks like much more like drinking and eating yourself to death.
Well, I thank you so much for the support. I would have to agree with that, but I would also have to disagree with that because the deaths from opiate overusage in the United States is higher than it ever has been. People can overdose.
I just asked the Sackler family about that.
Yeah, people can overdose on opium. A lot of people have done that throughout all of history. Like, you can look at the Earps, the Wyatts and the Earps from the showdown of the OK Corral. some of their wives ended up dying from overdoses from opium. And it's actually a pretty big issue in the United States right now, the opioid epidemic, because of overprescription. But I do thank you for the support and sharing that with us, because while nothing is bad in small quantities, the problem is that if it's if it sets off your dopamines like electricity, it's usually very addictive. And a lot of people, hell, we even know people personally, not going to give out, names or information or anything, that have also had problems with opiate addictions before, because the stuff is just that addicting. So you can end up overdosing on it. Anything that's incredibly addictive, you can end up overdosing and killing yourself with. And I always am into exercising extreme caution, and always making sure to avoid most things that could end up being addictive, because you never know if you're one of those people. And if you find out you're one of those people, it's too late at that point. But still, thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
You do know that the Wyatts and the Earps are actually one guy, right? It's Wyatt Earp.
Oh my God, you're right. That's why you're laughing. Wait, hang on.
Yes.
Wait, hang on. It was the Earps, and who else was it, Matthew?
It was Doc Holliday, the Earps, and the Clantons.
Damn it, Matthew, I got it wrong. You're right. Yeah, you're right. It is the Clantons and the Earps, and then there was Doc Holliday there just because. But thank you for correcting that, Matthew. And
Doc Holliday had the drugs.
Dude, Doc Holliday was the one with tuberculosis too, man. He was going around everywhere looking all pale and sickly and stuff. But anyways, thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And for me to be the history guy, I just got that completely wrong. I said the Wyatts and the Earps, and that was literally one guy. Oh man, I'm not gonna live that one down. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Blue Flam 777, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Blue Flam, for that support. And he said, Shy's in love with Elon. Niner.
Oh, near. I think it's supposed to be
That's the joke I was told earlier. It's a friendly joke.
Oh man, and thank you so much for the support, and I thank you for that being a good joke, because considering how divisive that is around here, I was like, oh no, I was like, it's about to be a war. But still, thank you for the support, and I thank you for kidding around with folks in the live chat. And with that, thank you so much once again. I hope we addressed that fairly well. And with that, we're about to be moving on to the next one. But before we do, I saw someone say, Matthew, I never quite grasped what was happening between you and MM. Both of you are working at the same cost. This is not a good situation. Yeah, we've tried resolving it with him, just to try and give you a rundown really quickly. We've tried resolving it. I've tried resolving it twice with him. Matthew's tried resolving it 3 times with him. He's shot down every single offer and then flat out lied about it, and now he's trying to threaten to destroy our lives because we're not wanting to accept his lies and accept his constant abuse against us. The guy has gone out of his way to make it personal. He has put out our home address on his Discord server and told people to go there to try and find our home address. He's sat here and invaded our privacy. He's constantly trying to harass us at every given moment. The guy is trying to threaten to destroy our futures as attorneys in law school. It is not something anymore that is about Ukraine in between him and me. Everyone can sit there and say it would be great if we both support Ukraine, and it's great that we both support Ukraine. But this guy is a pathological liar, an asshole, and not only that, he's a con man that's lying to every single one of y'all in the public while he does something completely opposite in the background that is plain to see if you go to our Twitter. I'm not going to move forward at this point trying to act like we are making peace with this guy. We are at war with this guy for the most point. This guy has made it personal. This guy makes it clear he wants to destroy our lives, and if he wants to play ball, we will play ball, and it's going to be something the likes of which you've never seen before.
And the worst part is we were the ones that were wronged by his actions, because the actions that caused us to sue him for defamation is because he claimed we were stealing the fundraiser money on Sundays. And it's not even factually possible for that to even happen, because the fundraisers occur and are operated by YouTube Give. We don't even touch the funds. It doesn't even have the possibility of even coming into our hands. It's simply factually impossible. So he's already admitted that statement was false, but he refused to retract it, which is the reason why the lawsuit is still pending. I've sent him 3 different emails over the course of a month or a month and a half, asking him to put aside the hatred, let's come together to end it, and even gave him the option at one point, which I've now had to rescind because he blew us off, to drop the lawsuit. We would say we have peace and move on. And he rejected it and ignored that offer. And now he's resorted back to trying to blackmail us and force us to go along with his will, or otherwise he's going to try to destroy our futures by telling the bar that we're nasty, lying people, which is totally false. And we just want to be left alone. And now he's worked himself back into a situation where we're going to go full force into having them served again to avoid these lies gaining traction and then harming our reputation even further.
And also, this guy is continuously lying. And this is something that I have to make very clear, because this is the one thing that he's now decided is going to be his new focus, on saying that we fundraised for a drone to send to the 231st Brigade, well, the 231st Battalion. That is a flat-out lie. I've actually had the help of some amazing viewers like Miss Disa in being able to find the exact points where I stated that it was in fact not a fundraiser, and we have the transcript where I said to everyone, I'm buying the drone. Do not worry about it. Do not support this. We only run fundraisers through YouTube Give because we don't know. This thing might get lost in the mail. And then that's exactly what happened. It ended up getting lost in the mail. And so that is, once again, a flat-out lie by this guy, because we have made it clear throughout the entirety of the war, and many of y'all were here to hear that statement, that we would never do anything outside of YouTube Give. Hell, that's why we don't even end up supporting well-known organizations like NAFO, because we can't support NAFO through YouTube Give. It's an amazing organization. They've done incredible stuff. But if we can't run it through YouTube Give, where people have the confidence in knowing that, you know, if YouTube screws up, there's going to be serious repercussions if they did something, and that means that they won't, we aren't going to support any fundraisers that are outside of that. That we never fundraised for that drone. I went and bought it with my own money. Folks threw in super chat saying, yeah, get it, go ahead. And we kept on telling people, don't do that, because we don't want it to be a fundraiser. It isn't a fundraiser. Your support's going to help out the channel instead. But this guy is consistently, like he's done on everything, like he is right now, he's going to flat out lie on that to try and destroy our reputation over something that is blatantly untrue. If this guy had a single thread of evidence that was true, why does he have to lie about every single thing he says to the point that it is not even close to what actually happened? And so with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well. I hope that kind of gives you all a lay of the land of what's going on. And I hate having to talk to you all about this over and over and over. I know when we see people say, can you stop talking about this? I understand what y'all mean. We have tried to stop talking about this for nearly 8 months at this point. The last time we reached, well, the first time we ever reached out to him was 8 months ago. And we are going to make a video on this here in the future. I don't know when, because we're trying to write up essays right now, but we are going to make a video laying out every single lie he's made, like us going after his channel vehemently. The first email I ever sent him, I had good things to say about his channel. I was like, hey, dude, you're doing great things. Think your channel's great. Good job, man. Keep it up. I wasn't even talking about you when you thought we were, and that's largely how that started. We pointed out another channel that was being run by our former moderators that was like largely ripping off our intro card and also our thumbnails, made a reference to them, and then because apparently he was also ripping off our intro card countdown thing on stream entirely, viewers of his went back to him and said, hey, he's calling you out, and we weren't. And so then I went and addressed that about a month and a half later. It was like, hey, dude, we were never even talking about you. I don't know why you took that personally, because we also clarified that the next day on stream. So, you know, and it's just kept on going from there. We've tried resolving this so many times at this point. There's nothing more we can do. And it's clear that this guy isn't going to try and resolve it. He just continues trying to stoke the flames and then act like he's a victim in front of all of y'all. So at this point, we're going for this guy. We're coming out of this thing, and that's the end of it. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Pooker1228, who puts in a $20 donation. Thank you very much, Pooker, for that support. I said bikes, and keep up the good work. And if you want, take a question from the chat.
And thank you so much for the support. And I love that you like bikes, Pooker. And I also saw your bike in your profile picture. Matthew, what kind of bike is that?
Let's see. Trying to see where that profile picture is. Let's see here. That is a Ducati. Let's see here. What is that thing called? Panigale, I think. The larger one, 1200 or something like that. It's a newer race bike.
Huh. It looks nice. I gotta say, I'm not really a big fan of racing bikes, but that looks like a really good bike. And I gotta thank you so much for the support, Pooker. And we will make sure to take a question from the chat. And thank you so much for supporting us to help us to keep the good work going. And so with that, what do we got?
And the live chat question goes to Brianna Joy, who says, what happened to the other ship that Ukraine severely damaged that was being proposed up by tugs?
At the moment, we understand that still in Novorossiysk right now, being propped up by ships. It apparently didn't get transported across the sea. I believe it's also in one of the temporary dry docks here, undergoing repairs, because I believe we got to see the hole made in the side of that ship about a week after it happened. So it did make it to dry dock, but it'll probably take months until that ship is back in action, if it ever returns to action at all. But with that, I hope that does address that live chat fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Indy Andy 4C, as well as Don and Anna, who each put in a $10 donation. Thank you both very much for that support. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to thank you so much for the support to all of y'all for helping the channel to keep on running. While y'all didn't leave comments, the support does mean a lot to us and helps us to keep this thing running. And so thank you to each and every one of y'all for keeping the Lee Spring Army alive. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you to all of y'all once again.
And the next one goes to Cerner Vikinger once again, who puts in another $10 super chat and says, "And you are angels, and I love you guys, and be well."
And I thank you for the support. One thing I got to say, though, is don't idolize us. I thank you for the high praise, though, but I would never want people to think that we're perfect people. Everyone errs. And I certainly don't want anyone to think that we are perfect. We are fallible like everyone else. We have our failures. We do things wrong. But I do thank you so much for the high praise. I understand the meaning behind it, but I never want anyone to think that we are just perfect people. A lot of people think that about public figures nowadays. Like, they'll look at someone and just go, "Oh, look, it's a perfect person." No one's perfect. And I don't want anyone to think that we are perfect. But I do thank you so much for putting such high praise on us. And thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Walter A. Lakota Jr., who puts in a 10 and says, "Me again, and the dry dock is now going out of commission for repairs and maintenance. It seems that Ukraine is playing the long strategy in this war, and as long as the AFU keeps up the pressure, what say you?"
And thank you so much for the support. And I would say if the Ukrainians keep up the pressure, the Black Sea Fleet is going to be completely unusable due to a lack of repairs or maintenance facilities to keep the fleet running. And I would certainly agree with you. With them knocking out dry docks and support ships, they are certainly trying to play a long game there in terms of being able to wipe out or greatly diminish the abilities of the Russian Navy. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to SY Tiger 907 yet again, who puts in another 10 and says, "F that guy, LSA. Attack rawr." Because what's his username?
Oh, man. Well, I thank you so much for the support, SYI Tiger. And I thank you so much for saying that, because we're largely in that camp at this point. And also, what's his username? I'm going to save that for the video, because we're going to make a video on the guy, call him out by name, and list off every single flat-out lie that he's made compared to the facts, compared to his emails, compared to everything. We're going to go out of our way to make sure to clear this up. We've never told our side of the story on this, and that's one thing that that honestly we should have done a lot sooner, is that this guy has been out there lying for months at this point, more than half a year at least, just outright every single time. And we have never really come out because we try and operate professionally and classily, so we don't go out of our way to just try and create beef and drama. But after dealing with this for 6 months, it's clear that's really the only way we are going to be able to address this. So we're going to put out the entire story, every single lie the guy's ever said, and how this whole entire thing started here in the future. That's probably going to make him shiver in his boots, or the guy's so delusional he actually thinks that people are going to see him as the good guy. I don't know. Because when you actually see what we've dealt with and the actual facts laid out, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, his big gripe is that we are supported by super chats and we're making money doing this. And he acts like we're keeping that secret. Like, every time he says that, and his viewers don't know, I'm pretty sure y'all know, because y'all throw in super chats and say, "This goes to pizza" and stuff. It's like, how in the hell could y'all not know? We make it clear after every super chat. But the guy's insane, to say the least. And we will make a video and we'll put his name in that. So with that, thank you so much once again for support. Hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Chef Pat, who puts in a 5 and says, "I think Kadyrov's kidneys are failing and used to work a lot with kidney disease patients. Slow and uncomfortable way to go. And happy Friday from Toronto."
And oh, hello from Toronto. Oh, wait a minute, man. We actually know folks in Toronto. Hey, yeah. What do you know? That's really cool. And I thank you so much for the support, being one of the Canadian viewers from Toronto. And I would have to say, that would actually be pretty unfortunate. Like, you know, still doesn't justify who he is, but that would be unfortunate if he was having some kind of a kidney failure. Hopefully I don't have kidney failure, because I've kind of been getting worried lately. I'm drinking so much coffee. I'm like, man, hopefully my kidneys can hang out through this. But still, thank you so much for the support. Thank you for sharing that with us. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Ignis, Lord of Flames, who puts in a 5 and says, "I personally think it's health-related reasons, but him being poisoned wouldn't be too far-fetched considering how close he's been to Putin recently."
And can you reread that one again?
I personally think it's health related, but him being poisoned wouldn't be too far fetched, considering how close he's been to Putin.
And I would agree. I don't think it's that far-fetched to say he was poisoned. I mean, hell, we just saw Putin shoot down Yevgeny Prigozhin and kill him in broad daylight. I don't think it would be out of the question to say that Kadyrov has been poisoned, but we have known about medical issues with Kadyrov for a while now, so that's also in play, is that it may just be a continuation of those medical issues, but he may have also been poisoned. So with that, thank you for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Nick Anderson, who puts in a 5. It says, I knew at the beginning of the war somehow he was going to be dead sooner or later, and just thought it was going to be a simple bullet.
Well, everyone keeps on, well, dang, dude, that sounded like way too hyped, man. But everyone keeps on saying that it was going to be bullets to the back of the head for both Prigozhin, Kadyrov, and everyone who's going to get purged. But they're so creative with how they take these people out. They shoot down their planes, poison people, put them in prison. I mean, the purge that we're seeing now is so more three-dimensional than the purge of the 1930s under Stalin. Like, Stalin would just have people executed. Putin's going about this in a way that's very creative. Each situation for each person is completely different, but still achieving the same result. But with that, I thank you for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, Don C. said, didn't Kadyrov just say he would die for Putin? And he did, and that was very bad timing on that statement. That's why it looks so suspicious to me, is because he did say that. He said he would take a bullet for Putin, and then all of a sudden now he's in rough shape. So I think you have a good point there. But moving on to our next one, we have a 5 from Jeff Axon, as well as a 5 from Andrew, and there are no comments to address. But thank you, Jeff and Andrew, for that support, and we do appreciate it very much. We also have a 5 from CK Bold, who says, take a live chat question, and we sure will. And the live chat question goes to Emily, who says, are you too interested in international law? And you both would be great in that practice. And me personally, I would say, nah, not me. I'm not really that interested in it. It's a little bit of a strange area of the law because it's really not that defined. There are, I guess you could call them statutes or treaties of some sort that are governing certain international law, but is not as defined as state law and federal law of the United States. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I would have to say, international law is somewhat interesting, but I would really like to get into more national law in the more state law here in the state of Alabama, and kind of do that as a practice. International law is really neat, though, but sadly, I don't really think it would be for me. But still, thank you so much once again for the support, and I hope that does address that fairly well. Thank you so much for the kind words and having faith that we would be good in that field. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Barry Woodward, who puts in a 5. It says, your efforts feed us, and LSA's means feed you. Thank you.
Hey, that's a really smart way of looking at it. And I gotta thank you so much for the support and helping the channel to keep on running. And y'all's support does help us to keep fed. And hopefully what we do keeps y'all fed knowledge and information-wise on what's going on in the war. And I gotta thank y'all so much once again for all the support. Not to do a soapbox thing here, but I appreciate every single one of y'all's support so much. Because, and I say this a good amount nowadays, and it's entirely true to me, and I bet it's true to all of y'all. It takes a good amount of time to make $1. It takes a good amount of work. And so when y'all support the channel, it's not just that, it's like, oh, whatever. And I can't stand when YouTubers just treat support like it's a oh, whatever thing. It's like, that person put in work in hours at their job and busted their ass to be able to have that money saved up to spend on what they want. And they're spending it on you to keep your channel running and to make sure that you have a job. Like, it's just disrespectful to not address support from people and thank them for it. That's why at most end of videos where you see that YouTubers have Patreons, they have a list of all of the patrons at the end of each video, because it only makes sense to appreciate people for doing something very generous and going out of their way to keep the channel running. And I gotta thank you so much for supporting us tonight. And that's also why, regardless of the amount of support, whether it's even just $1, that $1 is a lot for some people, and it means a lot to me that people go out of their way to support this channel and keep it running. And so thank you so much once again for the support and helping us to be fed, because that helps us to keep this channel running. And so thank you so much once again, and I hope we were able to address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Dark Warrior 137, who puts in a 5 and says, what if Ukraine used drone swarms to target the radars of Russian ships, and then send anti-ship missiles, and imagine the memes of cardboard sinking ships, lol.
Oh, that would be crazy. And honestly, I think that would be pretty smart. But I think the problem is right now is that while they have the money to throw into drones, there's just not enough drones out there. So I think that's largely their issue with that. But if they were able to tackle the drone numbers issue, I think that would be a pretty solid strategy, is to just swarm a ship with the drones and then just hope for the best. And so with that, thank you so much for the support. Hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Neil Vizanant, who puts in a 5 and says, seeing that beat up AK is first time I wanted to give a gun a hug.
Oh man, wouldn't want to give that thing a hug, man. You're gonna be you're gonna be hugging the work of forced labors in some sweatshop somewhere. Like, there are some guns that are made in that way that are valuable for historic reasons. With North Korea, it's just a sad, never-ending story of people living in horrible conditions like that, working horrible jobs. So with that, I thank you so much for the support, but I would have to agree with you. That poor thing looked like it was brutalized. Like, it was a crime. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one is going to go to Francine Shannon, who puts in a 10 and says, I heard a historian say that Putler is following the same plan as a Russian leader, can't remember the name though, who tried to do the same thing and failed miserably, and he will make the same mistakes.
I'm trying to think of that Russian leader, and I can't really think of them, actually. I can't think of their name either, and I can't actually think of a historical example of that. If you could find the name, just throw it in the live chat. Maybe it'll refresh my memory, or maybe I'll learn something new tonight. But I gotta thank you so much for the support. And a lot of people have tried his thing. Like Hitler, honestly, is the best example. And, and a lot of people, that's like a cliche nowadays, Matthew. Everyone goes, oh my God, he's literally Hitler, for literally everyone. But Putin really is very close to Hitler, at least in the outward ambitions of his country and like his goals for Russia. It's very similar to what the German goals were leading up to World War II. So I would say that that's probably a very close historical example in my mind. And everyone's saying Ivan the Terrible, and I would agree with that. I don't really know much about Ivan the Terrible. That's actually a part of history I kind of didn't study a great deal, but I would largely agree with that. Just on the surface of it. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, Francine, and thank you for being an old guard. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to, let's see here, it goes to Russ Rizzo, who puts in a 5 and says, Rodney, oh man, I finally solved my drinking problem. Oh, I joined Alcoholics Anonymous. I still drink. I'd use a different name. Man, my Rodney sucks.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. Oh, man, I get no respect around here. I have terrible impersonators. Oh, man, terrible. They sit there and try and read it off like they're me, and then they can't. Oh, man, I'm telling you. But let me... hey, whoa, hey. Whoa, don't pull out the 9. But let me go find it real quick. Ronnie, oh, man, I'm telling you. I finally solved my drinking problem. I joined Alcoholics Anonymous. Oh, man, I still drink. I just use a different name. Oh, man, I'm telling you. Oh, and it doesn't get better from there. Oh, man, I have a terrible gambling problem. Terrible, real bad. Oh, man. Oh, man, I went to Gambling Anonymous after I went to Alcoholics Anonymous. They told me I wouldn't make it, 2-1. Oh, man, I'm telling you, I have a terrible gambling addiction. Oh, man, and it runs in the family. Oh, man, my family's a stupid family, real stupid. Oh, man, when my mother heard that it was raining outside, she went out with a bowl. Oh, man, I'm telling you, I don't even know what the hell she was thinking. I don't even know how that joke works. But anyways, thank you for the support, Russ Rizzo, and helping the channel to keep on running, and I hope you enjoyed the Rodney. And so with that, thank you so much once again. Hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Open Carrier, who puts in a 5. And need an animal fundraiser, they said. And also, why not napalm along those trees? Thanks.
Man, that's like two completely opposite things. Let's help the puppies. Let's bomb the tree line. It's like, oh my God, man. It's like, that's a 180. But I would say incendiaries at this point, you can't really knock it at this point. Why not? Just give the Ukrainians a little bit of napalm. Let's see what happens. In the other part, we have done animal fundraisers before. The problem, however, with running them is that people don't really support animal fundraisers much. And when we run a fundraiser, we want it to be we want it to be wildly successful. That's always the goal. And we don't just want a fundraiser that does it for virtue signaling. We want one that actually gives support to Ukraine. And it doesn't really matter the fundraiser. It just matters that it is a large amount of it. So for Doctors Without Borders, we want to blow it out of the water. For Raslam, blow it out of the water. Revive Soldiers, blow it out of the water. But when we did International Fund for Animal Welfare, nobody really supported that much. Even back when the fundraisers were electric and we were raising like $15,000 $1,000 a weekend. That one only made it to like 9. And back then, that was incredibly low considering the average for all of the fundraisers surrounding it. So after that, we're like, apparently people don't really care for animals that much. And then we did it again a few weeks later just to make sure, and it was the same result. It was a much lower fundraiser than the ones around it. And I would love to do fundraisers for animals, but it seems as though people want to support humanitarian missions for citizens more so than animals. And also a lot of people got really angered whenever we ran one. People would be in the live chat saying, what, are you saying animals are more important than people? It's like, no, I'm not saying that. It's just that, it's something we can help out on. But still, with that, I thank you for the support. And I hope that addresses why we haven't run a lot of animal fundraisers, but I wish we could run more. It's just that they don't get supported as much as the humanitarian fundraisers. But with that, thank you once again for support. Hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Wubba, who puts in a 5 and says the only reason you need not do drugs is look at that fella over there, our MM fella, getting stoned right on his stream. And I gotta say that is a strong motivator not to touch the stuff, because I don't want to end up like that. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to thank you so much for the support, and I'd have to agree. And okay, I'm gonna be a little honest with y'all here, give y'all a real take. I hate it when people make like drinking or weed their entire personality. That is just so lame. It's like, are you telling me that you're that unoriginal and boring of a person? You have to make your entire personality around alcohol or weed? Like Seth Rogen. It's like it was funny at the start because he was young and he's, I guess, a frat kid kind of person, so it was funny. But now he's like 40 and his whole thing is weed. And it's like, it's old. It's like, dude, that's your only shtick. Yeah,
that laugh kills me.
Yeah, that laugh really gets me too, man. But it's like, that's your only shtick. And and that guy's only shtick is that too. He's like, yo, they're finally legalizing weed. It's like, there's so much going on in the world, that's just so much more important to me than like booze or weed or really drugs in general. That is just so goofy to me to like just focus on that like intently. It's like if you like it, just enjoy it as a hobby, but it doesn't have to be like the number one thing in your life. It's just being dependent on something to just try and get some enjoyment out of life. I mean, I find enjoyment in the simple things like some good food or something. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Pooker1228, who puts in a 5 and says haters are gonna hate, and yes they will.
And thank you so much for the support. I'd have to agree. Haters do be hating. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 2 from Chris Webb and Digital Bladeka, and they each said, Slava Ukraine.
And Slava Ukraine. And thank you so much to both of y'all for the support and helping us to keep this thing rolling. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
And the next one goes to Phil the Sky. We have 2 of them from him, each a $2 donation. He says, pizza rolls, 2/7-11 I go. And I had no idea. Wow, stay safe, and you'll win in the end.
And thank you so much for the support. We will win in the end. And also, pizza rolls are good. Like they're cheap processed food, yeah. But when you cook them up in an oven, they come out right. They come out really good. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and with that, we are moving on to our live chat questions. And up first, we have the Morse code decoders of the stream. We have Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Paul Schultz, and Tightlines LSO. They said, tonight's Morse code cipher is glory to Ukraine and soldiers of who continue to triumph over the Russian Navy, and long live the LSA.
And that's the sound of money. Y'all got that dead on the nail. That was the Morse code message of the night. Actually, no, that's actually the Morse code message of last night.
Is it?
Hang on. Did I switch out the intro? That's on me, y'all. I'm sorry about that. I actually didn't switch out the intro tonight to day 569. It's still day 568. So y'all did get it right, but that is the exact same Morse code message as last night. I made one for tonight, but sadly it apparently didn't move it on into the countdown. So with that, thank you all so much for getting the Morse code message correct. It's on my end. That was completely my fault. I actually didn't have the new Morse code message. But with that, thank you all once again. And actually, believe it or not, while we were having a massive push for live chats earlier in the night, we are actually well over time right now by about 30 minutes. And so we will be answering 5 live chat questions because while, it's overtime, I want to make sure that we do answer more than just 3. So we will be answering 5 live chats and then rounding out the night stream. And so with that, we are on to the first one.
This one goes to Dale Alaticus, who says, I've been hearing a lot lately about evacuations of Kherson villages. What is that about? Any ideas?
So we've been hearing about that for a while as well, and from what we understand is the Russians trying to dislocate Ukrainians and spread them out across Russia and a bit of like a diaspora of a sort. But beyond that, that's really the whole intent of it. They are also driving around recently, just about at the beginning of this week, forcing Ukrainians in the area that are still there to vote a certain way, of course, to make the Russians look good. But that's what we know in the area right now. And so with that, I hope that addresses that well, and we are on to the next one.
The next one goes to Pale Rider, who says, when is Sweden going to be accepted into NATO?
Sweden is currently being accepted into NATO. It's a bit of a lengthy process, so I would assume that they'll probably be in NATO by the end of this year. And give or take, maybe it'll be the end of this year, maybe it'll be the very beginning of next year, but it will be soon within the next few months. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Marion Demert, who says, did you guys read that Russia has bombed its own territories in northern Ukraine?
Wait, reread that one again?
Did you guys read that Russia has bombed its own territories in northern Ukraine?
No, I actually didn't hear about that. So I'd have to declare ignorance on that for now. And also, for some reason, I'm having like a mental gap right there because you're saying they bombed their own territory, but it's in northern Ukraine. And for some reason, that's not adding up to me mentally for some reason. So I actually can't. You've broken the enforcer like programming. I don't know how to answer that question. But with that, I hope that kind of addresses it. And with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Neil Vizanant, who says, with North Korea, I'm more concerned about biological and chemical weapons than nuclear weapons. And do you feel the same?
I would actually agree with you for the most part. We do understand that North Korea has biological and chemical labs where they're constantly trying to design things that are more deadly and more dangerous than bat soup. And from what we understand, they have succeeded at that in some form, but we've never seen it in practice. So it is concerning, but hopefully we don't have to be worried about it too much. I still think we need to be prepared as a precaution just in case if something like that happened, but hopefully, our preparations would be in vain in that instance. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And believe it or not, everyone, at 12:06 local time, 1:06 stream time, we are on to the last question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Value Radar, who says, do you think that Ukraine will be a continuous large producer and even exporter of weapons after the war?
I have a feeling they probably will be, not just for themselves, but for other nations in the area, especially if NATO begins rearmament. Hopefully they do, and I'm highly encouraging every NATO country that currently isn't meeting the spending quota to meet it and surpass it if they can. Hopefully Ukraine will be able to feed those militaries new arms and weapons that will help them to be able to stand up against the Russians as a team. So I have a feeling that they probably will continue arms manufacturing even once the war ends. And hopefully it will be lucrative for them, help them produce jobs, and help their economy to grow after the war. But with that, it is the end of tonight's stream. It's been an amazing stream tonight, and I got to thank all of y'all so much once again for watching. At the peak tonight, there were 7.1 thousand of y'all here, and I'm completely honored to know that 7.1 thousand of y'all at a single moment tonight found this stream worthwhile to watch. Of course, 36,400 of y'all have watched as we're rounding out this stream, and we are entirely honored that each and every one of y'all found this channel to be worthwhile to find your daily bit of news on the war in Ukraine. If y'all did enjoy, please make sure to go and subscribe. It doesn't actually help us out in the algorithms, but it makes us really happy when folks do. And if you hit the bell button, you'll also get notified of when we run these streams. We run like clockwork, 6 days a week, every day but Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, covering the past 24 hours of the war. Of course, if you'll also really like this stream, this one is in particular, you can also hit the like button as well. Currently up to 2,350 likes, and if you hit that button, it also pushes the stream to a couple of more folks, thinking that they'll probably like it too, and hopefully they would. But with that, thank you all so much once again for watching. I will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. And so, of course, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, and Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And good night, LSA. We'll see you all tomorrow. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for our short war video. And, of course, Slava Ukraine.
Yes.
The Lee Spring Army sends its regards.
Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.